Chapter 819 Dark Nether Ancestor. Is that so? Li Lingshan's expression was extremely grave as he could not think of any way to fight against the phantom. This phantom was not a physical entity at all. It was impossible to attack it. Moreover, this phantom was extremely terrifying. The power of the light of reincarnation and the cold air could kill any expert below the martial god realm. He was helpless against this old man. However, he was still calm. He circulated his ice soul martial soul to stabilize his mind. The true essence in his entire body was circulated to the extreme. The 5 elements sacred body was activated at this time, and the 5 elements Tao intent was also circulated. The 5 elements Tao intent raged in the air. Li Lingshan's entire body seemed to have blended into this world. Water Tao intent. As he spoke to himself, the air suddenly became damp. Gradually, the sound of running water could be heard between heaven and earth. In an instant, the sound of rumbling could be heard in the air, as if a river was rolling. However, the voice suddenly stopped. The air became extremely frozen, as if it was going to freeze the world. Coupled with the shadow's cold aura, this world had completely turned into a frozen century. Li Lingtian extended his hand in the air, and a strange flame appeared in his palm. His palm was also flickering with a strange icy flame. Ice flame! Instantly, countless powerhouses recognized the icy frost flame in Li Lingshan's hand. When they saw it, they could not help but shudder. This icy frost flame was a warrior's nemesis. It surpassed all kinds of attributes and could not be restrained by flames. There was ice in the flames, and the ice formed a strange ice flame. It was not flames and ice at all, but a mutation of flames and ice. No one could say whether this ice flame was flames or ice. However, Li Lingtian understood that the icy frost flame could change in front of him according to his mood and thoughts. After the appearance of the ice flame, the space began to tremble as if it could not withstand the destructive tremors of the ice flame. Furthermore, the ice flame in Li Lingshan's hands grew stronger and more numerous. Gradually, the ice that was originally only the size of a fist had grown to a meter in diameter. It was like a ball of destructive power that could explode at any time. At the same time, the world, time, and space seemed to have frozen. Last time, Li Lingtian had obtained an endless supply of icy frost flames at the exit of the ice palace in the demonic canyon. He did not have the time to refine the icy frost flames after absorbing them. However, ever since he obtained the icy frost flame, he had never forgotten about it. All these years, he had been refining the icy frost flame. Only after he reached the martial saint realm did he truly refine the icy frost flame. The current ice flame was enough to destroy the world. Not bad, not bad. Today, I'll teach you the power of the Yin Qi and the light of reincarnation. The shadow trembled slightly when it saw Li Lingshan's ice flame, but its expression could not be seen. After the voice was heard, the shadow disappeared in a strange manner. However, the pale green reincarnation light in the sky flashed and quickly pressed down on Li Lingtian. At that moment, Li Lingtian waved his hand and the frost flame in his hand turned into a ray of light that pressed down on the opponent's reincarnation light. At the same time, his figure disappeared, as if he had disappeared into thin air. Roar! Roar! In the sky, before the light of the ice flame and the light of reincarnation collided, Li Lingshan's roar was heard. His voice was like a dragon's roar that shook the 9 heavens. However, Li Lingshan's figure was nowhere to be seen and his shadow was nowhere to be seen. One man and one shadow hid in the air as they constantly flashed and attacked. No one could see what attacks the shadow and Li Lingtian were using, nor did they know what was going on. Tang Qingyue and the others were also extremely worried. They could not tell the cultivation of this phantom, but it was extremely terrifying. They could not use their attacks to fight at all. Encountering such an expert, he had no confidence at all. Chi-chi-chi-chi, si-si-si-si. Boom! 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 At this moment, the light screen formed by the icy flame finally collided with the light of reincarnation. Immediately, a sizzling sound appeared in the air, and the space continuously trembled and tore. Furthermore, there were continuous explosions. The entire space trembled as if it was about to be destroyed at any moment. However, after the 2 extreme destructive forces collided, it was a tie. At least it was impossible to tell who was the winner for the time being. Poochie! With a dull thud, Li Lingtian appeared in the air with a pair of crystal-clear wings on his shoulders. There was blood at the corner of his mouth. At this moment, his entire spirit was greatly damaged, and his face was pale. At the same time, the shadow appeared in the air. No one could tell what was going on with the shadow. However, the shadow did not attack Li Lingtian after it retreated. Countless powerhouses were baffled by this situation. Because the phantom had no expression and no physical body, it was impossible to tell if it was injured or if its expression had changed. True Dragon Qi. Li Lingtian's body was emitting waves of colding qi. This colding qi was obviously the damage that the phantom had inflicted on Li Lingtian. The colding qi continued to erode Li Lingtian. However, Li Lingtian's 5 elements sacred body quickly converted the colding qi into true essence and turned it into a resource. Moreover, Li Lingtian's aura was rising rapidly and his aura was changing. His body rapidly changed and finally he turned into a phantom, a divine dragon. After the true dragon phantom appeared, the world was torn apart. The power of the divine dragon was earth-shattering. Divine dragons were the most powerful of the myriad races. Their power tore through the void and destroyed the world. Li Lingtian transformed into a 100-meter-long phantom true dragon and unleashed his shocking dragon energy. After the true dragon body barrier reached the 5th level, it would be the true dragon power. After reaching the 5th level, one could completely transform into a divine dragon. The might of the true dragon's power was just that overbearing. Furthermore, Li Lingtian activated the dragon energy of the 3,000 worlds in the divine dragon ring, with a flick of his divine consciousness. The dragon energy of one world surged out and quickly entered Li Lingtian's body. The domineering true dragon qi corroded the air, and the entire world became true dragon qi. True dragon body. There's true dragon qi. What a terrifying true dragon qi. I didn't expect him to cultivate such a tyrannical cultivation technique. Who else in this world can compare to his defense? It's a true dragon. It's actually reached the level of a true dragon. The true dragon can transform into a phantom. It's just right to fight against the phantom. What a terrifying true dragon Q. In the sky, countless powerhouses who were watching the battle stared at Li Lingtian in horror. Everyone knew that Li Lingtian was at the 5 elements perfection and possessed incredible strength. However, he did not expect Li Lingtian to cultivate the most powerful dragon tribe cultivation technique in the world. The dragon tribe no longer belonged to the demon tribe, because he was the supreme being of the demon tribe. He had surpassed the demon tribe and had become a noble race like humans. In terms of strength, the dragon race was the strongest in this world. Now that Li Lingtian had cultivated the true dragon's strength, it was evident how powerful he was. With the appearance of the true dragon power, the phantom also shook. Immediately, the phantom flashed rapidly and charged toward the true dragon phantom that Li Lingtian had transformed into. Boom! 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 An explosion sounded in the air. This sound had already suppressed the sounds of the ice flame and the light of reincarnation. The two phantoms, the true dragon phantom, carried a destructive dragon qi. The domineering dragon qi was on par with the cold qi of the phantom. The pale green light of reincarnation on the phantom's body also kept colliding with the dragon qi. I know who you are. Li Lingtian's voice rang out in the air. Instantly, countless powerhouses pricked up their ears to find out what the phantom was. Haha, it's too late for you to know now. The phantom laughed loudly. His voice was unbridled and he did not take Li Lingtian seriously at all. The 10 great venerables of the icebound snow region. Dark Nether Ancestor. Li Lingtian shouted. His voice reverberated throughout the world and the world trembled in front of his voice. All the experts in the army heard it clearly. After hearing this voice, they were all shocked, and their expressions kept changing. The icebound snow region was the most mysterious and terrifying place in the divine martial continent. Legend had it that there were 10 venerables. Only 9th-tier martial god experts could be venerables. No one dared to enter the icebound snow region. For countless tens of thousands of years, no one had entered the icebound snow region, and no experts had left the icebound snow region. This icebound snow region was like an independent world. Another important thing was that the icebound snow region was located in Yuzhou province, which was close to the demon race. The icebound snow region was also regarded as a desolate land by the divine martial continent. He did not expect this phantom to actually come from the icebound snow region. Even if this phantom was only a Venerable's clone, it was enough to defy the heavens. That's right. Since you already know, then die. The mysterious man did not quibble because Li Lingtian had seen through his cultivation base and cultivation technique. He wanted to hide it from others, but he could not hide it from Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was too mysterious and powerful. He was knowledgeable, had terrifying strength and unfathomable means. If it were not for the item in Li Lingtian's possession, he would not have left the frozen snow region to deal with Li Lingtian. It was unwise to provoke Li Lingtian. Light of the netherworld, light of reincarnation fuse. Judgment of heaven and earth. As soon as the mysterious man finished speaking, his body flashed and disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the place where the reincarnation light and the ice flame were. He grabbed with one hand and the reincarnation light quickly disappeared. Losing its target, the ice flames fiercely bombarded the phantom. However, the phantom vanished into thin air and the icy frost flame lost its target once again. In the end, it quickly shot toward Li Lingtian. It entered Li Lingtian's glabella and turned into nothing before entering his dantian. At this moment, the mysterious man appeared again. He waved his hands casually and a beam of dark light appeared. The dark light and the light of reincarnation fused together. Instantly, the world trembled. The fusion of the two lights made the world even stranger. Chapter 820, Judgment of Heaven and Earth. Whoosh! 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 The air became gloomy, and only a mysterious and terrifying light descended from the void. The phantom also quickly entered the light. Instantly, the entire world was enveloped by this light. Ah! Chi-chi-shi-shi! Rumble. In the distance, countless experts quickly turned to ashes, and countless armies fell. The army and experts quickly retreated. The war god's array formation quickly collapsed and disappeared, and space began to distort. Everything was distorted and corroded by this light. The Heaven Roar's capital city continuously melted and finally turned into a pile of sand and dust. When this terrifying scene appeared, all the armies and experts were shocked to death. In coldness, extreme poison. Li Lingtian's true dragon power was constantly suppressed. In the end, the powerful true dragon power was compressed to a size of only 100 meters. The terrifying corrosive and destructive power completely destroyed the true dragon chi, and continuously compressed it. Li Lingtian's figure vanished and he reverted back to his original form. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he watched the destructive radiance bombard him. This light was like the judgment of heaven and earth. It was as if it wanted to destroy this world and turn it into the underworld. The dragon energy of a world was compressed to the extreme. It crashed into Li Lingtian's body and finally entered his dantian. Li Lingtian's expression changed drastically when he saw this terrifying scene. Only he knew that no matter how powerful he was, he would not dare to devour the dragon energy of an entire world at once. Moreover, this was forcefully entering his dantian. If not for the true dragon body, he would have long been destroyed by his own dragon energy. He circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation chant, and quickly stabilized the balance of the dragon energy. Otherwise, the dragon energy would explode and be destroyed. If the dragon energy exploded, even a god would not be able to save him. After all, this was the dragon energy of the same world. Ah! He watched as the destructive judgment of heaven and earth descended. The light that could melt and erode all things in the world had already descended. Li Lingtian roared as his eyes turned bloodshot. 3 exquisite lotus-shaped runes appeared between his eyebrows. Then a blood-red light burst out. Instantly, the blood-red light pierced through the destructive light of heaven and earth judgment, and shot directly towards the center of heaven and earth judgment. Ah! Damn it, damn it! Arg! A scream of agony rang out. However, the moment the scream died down, the illusory dark nether ancestor roared furiously, and the destructive light became even stronger. The blood-red radiance that Li Lingtian had cast earlier was the Eye of the Divine Soul. The Eye of the Divine Soul carried a divine consciousness attack. The Dark Nether Patriarch did not expect Li Lingtian, a martial saint, to dare to attack with his divine consciousness. Furthermore, his divine consciousness was so powerful that it had completely surpassed the realm of a martial saint. Even a level 1 or 2 martial god powerhouse did not possess such a powerful divine consciousness. She was accidentally attacked by Li Lingshan's divine consciousness. With his divine consciousness attacked, the destructive radiance paused for a moment. With this pause, Li Lingtian had found an opportunity. Li Lingshan's entire aura changed as the destructive radiance that was even more powerful descended. The expression on his face changed, and his entire person became extremely demonic. His hair fluttered in the wind, and there were blood-red runes on his glabella. His entire body emitted a terrifying aura, and he looked like a demon god. Saint Demon Quintessence. Li Lingtian roared as the holy demon ring was activated. The terrifying holy demon energy inside entered his body. All the true essence in his body turned into demonic qi, true demonic qi, and there were traces of Saint Demonic Qi in the true demonic qi. At this time, his demonic cultivation had already reached an extreme. Even his true essence cultivation was not as powerful as the demonic cultivation method. After obtaining the true devil qi of Qing Wu's clone and the devil-suppressing qi of great demonic god Di Tian, his devil race cultivation had reached an unprecedented level. Instantly, a shocking amount of demonic QJ soared into the sky and bombarded the light. Boom! With an explosion, the shocking demonic qi directly pierced a hole in the light. Li Lingtian took the opportunity to burst out from the hole and left the light's shroud. He floated in the air and looked at the light of the heaven and earth judgment from afar. Demons. Demon race cultivation technique? What a powerful devil technique. The Dark Nether Patriarch was in the midst of the heaven and earth judgment, but his voice was filled with shock. He never expected Li Lingtian to possess such a heaven-defying devil cultivation method. Even the demons did not possess such pure demonic qi. Who was this Li Lingtian? He did not cultivate the most powerful 5 elements perfection of the human race, yet he had the Dragon Clan's cultivation method, and now, he was the strongest cultivation method of the demons. His cultivation and methods had completely exceeded the imagination of the human race. Everything about this young man was heaven-defying and earth-shattering. The cultivation technique of the demon race. He is a devil cultivator, third cultivator of true virtue, devil cultivator, demon cultivator, true body cultivation technique, as expected of a pervert. This Li Lingtian is no longer a genius but a perverted monster. This is too terrifying. Countless powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian from afar. They could only see that Li Lingshan's body was covered in black demonic qi. A monstrous demonic qi soared into the sky. Half of the sky was filled with cold light, and the other half was filled with destructive and terrifying demonic qi. Li Lingtian stood in the air like a demonic god. The sight of him shocked countless powerhouses and the army. On the other hand, the carefree empire's army and powerhouses were extremely excited. The stronger Li Lingtian was, the happier they were. I said that if you come to the Black Continent, you should stay in the Black Continent. Judgment of heaven and earth? I am heaven and earth. Can you judge me? Ha 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 ha. Then I'll let you experience what it means to defy the heavens. I'm going against the heavens. Even the heavens can't stop me. You're just a small stepping stone. Li Lingtian laughed out loud as his hair fluttered in the wind and a terrifying demonic qi wafted through the air. At this time, the demonic qi could already resist the cold qi. This was because this cold qi was transformed from the nether qi. The netherworld was powerful, but the demon realm was also tyrannical and heaven-defying. When the two powerful auras clashed, it became a battle between the demon race and the dark race. He stretched out his hand and the Saint Magic Dragon Blade appeared in his hand. The Saint Magic Dragon Blade was the supreme treasure of the demons. Its power could destroy the world. It was a terrifying treasure for humans, demons, and any living being. As soon as he finished speaking, he swung his divine magic dragon blade. Suddenly, the space trembled for some reason. A light shadow flashed and appeared. When the light shadow appeared, the attack had already crossed 100 miles and struck the light of heaven and earth judgment. Gotcha! With a crisp sound, the light of the heaven and earth judgment was struck, and the true devil qi fell. The heaven and earth judgment was destroyed under this attack. Yes, the light of reincarnation and the light of netherworld separated, and the shadow of the dark nether ancestor appeared in the air again. The shadow shook, and it was obvious that he was seriously injured. The Dark Nether Patriarch looked at the Saint Magic Dragon blade in Li Lingshan's hand and was lost in thought. However, all the experts could roughly guess the changes in the Dark Nether ancestor's heart. He was definitely shocked and afraid. The Saint Magic Dragon blade was a supreme treasure of the demon race. It was extremely powerful. Even if the Saint Magic Dragon blade was incomplete, its power was not something that Dark Nether ancestor could withstand. The heaven and earth judgment was no longer a physical attack. Physical attacks could not pose any threat to it at all. However, the divine magic dragon blade carried demonic chi, and its power was extremely mysterious. With one attack, it just happened to break the heaven and earth judgment. Very good. Today, even if I have to destroy this clone, I will destroy you. At this moment, the Netherworld ancestor was already prepared to kill him. This was because he had witnessed how terrifying Li Lingtian was. He was only a martial saint now, but he was already so terrifying. If he waited for a few years, no one would be able to suppress him after his cultivation base had increased tremendously. By then, he would definitely become a future threat to the frozen snow region. Moreover, it would be impossible to obtain Li Lingshan's items by then. Furthermore, the frozen snow region was in dire need of Li Lingshan's items. He had already made up his mind to eliminate Li Lingtian even if it meant the death of his clone. Light of reincarnation, light of darkness fuse. The power of my true body sacrifice. The projection of the Dark Nether Patriarch erupted with terrifying Dark Nether chi. The Coldine chi intensified at this moment, and the space continued to be destroyed. Suddenly, a mysterious pulling force appeared between heaven and earth. Li Lingtian did not dare to be careless at this moment. A strange glint flashed across his eyes as he used his divine consciousness to retract the divine magic dragon blade. Then, with a flick of his divine sense, a scepter appeared in his hand. Rumble! Rumble! When the scepter appeared, bolts of lightning descended from the heavens. Heaven and earth became extremely dark, and shocking demonic chi stirred in the air. This world had completely become a world of demonic chi. At this moment, Li Lingtian had completely become a demon powerhouse. He stood proudly in the sky and looked coldly at the projection of the Dark Nether ancestor. At this moment, a strange power appeared in the void. As if some kind of seal had been broken, a destructive power descended on the phantom. Kacha! Kacha! The destructive power descended, tearing the space apart. It was like a mirror that was being shattered inch by inch. Roar! Roar! The projection of Dark Abyss Progenitor roared at this moment, and countless mysterious hand seals appeared. The destructive power in the sky became solid. The extremely dense cold air fell on the phantom like the water of the Milky Way. Seeing this scene, all the soldiers and experts were shocked. Their faces were filled with shock. This shocked expression was even more terrifying than seeing ghosts. Even Li Lingtian was shocked and his expression turned grave. This was the most solemn moment in this world. The shadow of the Dark Nether ancestor quickly turned into a real human expert. My true body, my true Bodhi's power. Li Lingtian cried out in surprise. Initially, he did not believe the phantom's words when it mentioned his true body power. He did not expect that he would actually summon his true body power. The power of the original body was a mysterious method used by the clone to summon a portion of the original Bodhi's power, to form a physical body, and use destructive attacks. Chapter 821. Dark Nether Ancestor. Li Lingshan's heart trembled at the sight. He did not expect that the Dark Nether Progenitor would summon his true body in order to kill him. It was a heavy price to pay. Even if Li Lingtian was killed, his original Bodhi's cultivation base would be greatly reduced in the future. In the Divine Martial Continent, his clone would not summon his original body unless it was absolutely necessary, because this price was not something that a martial god expert was willing to pay. Moreover, only after becoming a martial god would there be an avatar. Martial god experts could cultivate avatars, but they did not dare to use them. Li Lingtian, it's your honor to have me here personally. I'll give you two choices. One is to commit suicide, and the other is for me to extract your soul and refine it. The Dark Nether ancestor turned into a physical body. He was also dressed in black, and his face was extremely cold. Traces of anger were already on his face. It was indeed extremely furious to have his true body come here. You guys will never change your old habits. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. The young are arrogant and the old are also arrogant. You can lie to others, but in front of me don't pretend. This is not your original body. It is impossible for a martial god expert to be summoned by a clone. You are only a portion of the original Buddha's strength. Do you really think I'll be afraid of you if you only use 1/10 of my power? Li Lingtian stared coldly at the Nether Spirit Patriarch, as he felt the destructive cold air in the space, and the vicious Nether Spirit power. The old man was many times stronger than the first phantom. A 9th firmament martial god Venerable had incredible strength. Even a clone of his true body was not something a martial god could compare to, let alone Li Lingtian, who was only a martial saint powerhouse. As he spoke, the demonic chi in his entire body soared. The saint demon scripture was heaven-defying and powerful. It was the strongest cultivation art of the devil race. Even the great demonic god Ditian had never seen the saint demon scripture before. He had true devil chi and saint devil chi, and his power was heaven-defying and terrifying. Good, very good. You can actually see through my clone. Even if I only have 1/10 of my original strength, I can still crush you. The dark Nether Patriarch's face was filled with malice. The martial god's aura was unleashed to the extreme, and the destructive pressure continued to press down on Li Lingtian. There was a huge gap between the two of them in terms of cultivation level, and they could easily suppress Li Lingtian with their pressure. Heavenly Demon Region. Li Lingtian could feel the terrifying pressure. Naturally, he knew that the Dark Abyss Patriarch was going to suppress him with his pressure, and suppress his aura before he wiped out Li Lingtian. Naturally, he would not let go of this opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. However, Li Lingtian would not let him have his way. In terms of cultivation realm, he was miles away from a 9th firmament martial god supremacy. With his current cultivation realm, any martial saint could instantly kill him, let alone a king among martial gods. However, even though his realm was not a match for a venerable, he had countless methods. If he couldn't even match up to the other party, then he could only wait for death. Terrifying demonic chi gathered, and the heaven demon domain spread out. Instantly, a shocking pressure formed a domain that blocked the pressure of the dark Nether ancestor. Crash. Rumble. A series of explosions rang out as the destructive pressure continued to suppress Li Lingtian's heavenly demon domain. Li Lingtian was like a lone boat in the middle of a raging sea. However, the raging sea could not destroy the lone boat. All of a sudden, countless experts and the 30 million soldiers in the sky were shocked. Although the Dark Nether Patriarch was powerful, it was even more impressive for Li Lingtian to be able to withstand such destructive pressure. One should know that a warrior who was one level higher would be crushed to death, and the same applied to the pressure. Powerful warriors relied on their pressure to suppress lower-level warriors, but this iron rule was broken by Li Lingtian. In the heavenly demon region, a terrifying defense blocked the pressure of the venerable. Li Lingtian was shocked. 1/10 of a venerable's power was actually so terrifying. Fortunately, he had the heavenly demon region and the various treasures on him to protect himself. Coupled with the strong physique and defense of the internals, any other martial god powerhouse, even a 1st or 2nd heaven martial god, would have been crushed to death by this pressure. Heavenly Wand. With the heavenly demon domain protecting him from the dark Nether Patriarch's pressure, Li Lingtian's eyes flashed with determination as he had the opportunity to store his energy. Demonic chi burst out, and the entire space shook. He waved the heaven wand in his hand, and the destructive demonic chi immediately condensed into a strange pillar of light. The pillar of light was like a huge arc of lightning that shot towards Dark Nether Ancestor. Boom! A destructive explosion rang out. The power of the heaven wand ignored space and time. It was as if it had teleported. There was no difference in time at all. When the heaven wand was unleashed, its power struck Dark Nether Ancestor's body. With an explosion, Dark Nether Ancestor's body was thrown into the air, and the terrifying pressure disappeared. Shoo! Whoosh! All the experts in the army were in an uproar and let out a breath of cold air. They never expected Li Lingtian to send the Venerable One flying with a single blow. What kind of concept was that? Tyrant Demon Dragon Kill. True Demon God Destroying Palm. 19 Heavenly Demon Finger. At that moment, Li Lingxian's figure flashed as he swiftly chased after the Dark Abyss Patriarch without any hesitation or delay. The Heaven's Wand was already hovering in front of him as it followed Li Lingtian swiftly. The power of the Heavenly Demon region directly broke through the martial god's pressure in the air. Waving his hands, shocking demonic chi swept across as the first 3 moves of the 9 styles of Saint Devil were displayed. The first 3 styles of the 9 styles of the Saint Devil were the strongest secret techniques of the Devil race. Even the Almighty Devil race didn't know of such a remarkable ability. This was because the 9 styles of the Saint Demon were only recorded in the true Saint Demon record. Each style was destructive and was the nemesis of all living things in the world. Immediately, destructive demonic chi swept across the world. Tens of thousands of demonic chi transformed into demonic dragons that bombarded Dark Nether Ancestor. Furthermore, the true demon god-destroying palm ignored the distance in space and sent out a palm print. After the palm print, Li Lingtian flicked his finger and a mysterious finger force tore through the air, locking onto the Dark Abyss Patriarch. Rumble! Rumble! Puff! In the air, Li Lingtian was like a demon god as he pursued the enemy at high speed. The destructive demonic chi tore through the space continuously. The battle between the two was originally intended to eliminate the warrior sage's powerhouse, but it had turned into a fight between the warrior sage and the warrior sage. Between heaven and earth there was a tacit understanding. Chi shot in all directions. The entire space was extremely terrifying, as if it was the end of the world. At that moment, an explosion sounded as several attacks ruthlessly bombarded the Dark Nether Ancestor's body. At the same time, the destructive finger force pierced through the chest of the Dark Nether Ancestor, and a huge bloody hole appeared on his back. However, there was still a terrifying black aura lingering on the bloody hole, and it could not be healed at all. Dark Nether Ancestor spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body started to sway. His originally unstable body became even more unstable, as if he would turn into a shadow at any moment. A Supremacy's cultivation base was not something an ordinary expert could imagine. Even Li Lingxian's top-notch heaven-grade divine power could not injure the Dark Abyss Ancestor. However, the last 9 heavenly demon finger was almost as powerful as a saint-grade divine power. Furthermore, this finger force contained Saint Demon Chi, which completely destroyed the Dark Nether Ancestor's defense and injured him. The corrosive power of the Saint Demon Chi continued to devour the Dark Nether Ancestor's cultivation. Puff! Very good, very good. Today you can die. 3 kowtows of the Nether King, no calamity. Dark Nether's progenitor's body and mind kept shaking, and his expression was extremely ugly. He looked at the wound on his chest, and fear appeared in his eyes. This demonic chi had exceeded his imagination. He did not expect that he would be injured by this demonic chi. Moreover, this demonic chi was constantly devouring his cultivation. If he delayed any longer, his original body would be affected. Not only would his main body be affected, but it would also be impossible for him to kill Li Lingtian. The expression on his face changed and became sinister and terrifying. A cruel smile overflowed from the corner of his mouth. Immediately, the nether energy in his body circulated, and his true essence reached its limit. His hands kept changing into all kinds of hand gestures, and terrifying hand seals were formed. A power that came from afar appeared between the heavens and the earth. The true yuan and nether chi of the Dark Nether Patriarch scattered in the air. In the blink of an eye, that power arrived beside the Dark Nether Patriarch. His quintessential essence and the Dark Nether chi fused together. Li Lingtian shuddered when he felt the force. The 30 million strong army and tens of thousands of powerhouses were also trembling. He could tell that this force was the aura of 9 Nether City. It must be a summoning power from the underworld. If he hesitated any longer, he would only be waiting for death. Heavenly Magic Staff. Your tacit understanding is monstrous. Li Lingtian reached out with one hand and grabbed the heavenly staff beside him. The heavenly staff transformed into a terrifying weapon that was 100 meters long before it was hurled at the opponent. At this moment, the demonic chi in the world was blasted down by the heaven staff. The power tore the space apart and split it into 2. Just as he unleashed this power, The power unleashed by the Dark Nether ancestor had already arrived and pressed down on him from all directions. Rumble! The two destructive forces collided with an explosive sound. Destructive demonic chi and Umbra chi flew in all directions. However, Li Lingshan's body shook and he was quickly tossed out. The force of the Hades 3 kowtow had already materialized into a pair of 1,000-meter-long arms that smashed down on Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian felt insignificant and powerless before the arms. Li Lingshan's eyes were filled with despair as he watched the gigantic arms slam down on him. At that moment, Li Lingshan's despairing eyes flashed with surprise. He then activated the underworld ring in his hand with his divine sense. Hell King Blade. He took out a strange curved blade from the underworld ring with his divine sense. The curved blade emitted a dense green color and a destructive pressure. Suddenly, a mysterious pressure erupted in the air. This pressure was extremely cold, as if it wanted to freeze the space. Chapter 822. Hell Kingblade 1. The Underworld Kingblade was one of the 6 treasures of the Underworld that he had obtained in 9 Nether City. When he saw Dark Nether Old Ancestor perform Dark King's 3 kowtows, he immediately thought of the 6 treasures of the Netherworld. However, he did not know what treasure to use at that moment because none of the treasures had been refined except for Crimson Light Heavenly Monarch. In times of crisis, he could not care about anything else. He was like a drowning person grabbing at random, desperately trying to find a cure. Thinking of the Underworld King Blade, he summoned the Underworld King Blade with his divine sense. The Underworld King Blade went straight for the arm of the 3 kowtowing Underworld Kings. The aura of the two forces were exactly the same, but Li Lingtian had no idea at that moment. All he could think about was how to withstand the terrifying arm. If he could not withstand the attack, he would be destroyed. Crash. The sound of an item being shattered rang out. All the experts in the army in the air stopped at this moment. However, when they saw the situation in the sky, they were all stunned. Li Lingshan's casual display of strength had actually shattered the gigantic arm into pieces before it gradually turned into fragments and disappeared into the air. This situation was completely beyond the expectations of the powerhouses and the army. In their eyes, Li Lingtian would be severely injured if not killed. Tang Qingyue and the others almost cried out in surprise. However, they could not enter such a huge battle at all. By the time Li Lingtian was in danger, it would be too late for them to intervene. However, they did not expect Li Lingtian to be able to dispel the attack so easily. Puchi, the Dark Nether Patriarch, had channeled all his strength into this attack. However, he was destroyed by Li Lingshan's Hell King Blade and suffered a devastating blow. Although he was known as the Dark World Ancestor, he did not cultivate a truly powerful technique of the Dark World. With the martial god's cultivation and powerful technique, he could already dominate the world. However, he did not expect to encounter the Underworld King's Blade, the most precious treasure of the Dark World. This was luck. Martial artists relied on strength and experience, but also luck. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body swayed as if he was about to dissipate at any moment. Hell King Blade? How could it be Hell King Blade? A look of terror appeared on the Dark Nether Ancestor's face, and he was even more unwilling. He did not expect his luck to be so bad to meet this little freak. He had used all kinds of methods and even obtained so many terrifying treasures. Fighting with this little freak was really unlucky. Die! Without waiting for Li Lingshan's reply, an ethereal voice came from the distant void. The voice came suddenly, and as soon as the voice fell, a white light descended and struck the Dark World Patriarch. The white light was like a grand light, appearing strangely and disappearing in an instant. It came quickly and left even faster. Arg! With a miserable cry, the Dark Nether Ancestor's body quickly dissipated and turned into a phantom. The phantom also disappeared. The Dark Nether Ancestor had completely disappeared from this space. All that was left behind was the echo of screams that drifted in this space. Li Lingshan's face did not show any excitement as he watched the Dark Abyss Patriarch's demise. Instead, his expression turned grave. Who are you? Li Lingtian looked into the void in search of the owner of the voice. The owner of the voice had not appeared from the beginning to the end, but he had killed the Dark Abyss Patriarch. In the ethereal immortal realm divine palace, the heart of creation has appeared. When the divine martial 5 continents were unified, the heart of Tao vindication seized the good fortune. In the void a slight distortion appeared, like a ripple in a calm lake. When this ripple appeared, the voice sounded again. When the voice fell, the world returned to silence. Everything calmed down. The nether chi disappeared. And so did the cold chi. Li Lingtian stared blankly into the void. He was shocked that he had failed to discover the owner of the voice despite his array Tao cultivation and powerful divine consciousness. However, after a long time, the owner of this voice never appeared again, as if he had left. Li Lingtian realized that this person did not have any ill intentions. He activated the holy demon's quintessence and quickly absorbed the demonic chi between heaven and earth. In just a moment, the demonic chi in the air was absorbed and the aura in the air returned to normal. Boom! Young master, young master. Young master's cultivation is unparalleled. Sweep the black continent and unify the world. After a brief silence, the world erupted in cheers. All the soldiers and experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty cheered. The entire world trembled in their cheers. Countless experts who were watching the battle were also extremely shocked at this moment. From the appearance of the 4 martial gods to the appearance of the Venerable's clone, the process was unpredictable. In the end, the Venerable disappeared. The entire process was extremely dangerous. If one was not careful, they would disappear. The fate of the Carefree dynasty was also wavering. However, in the end, Li Lingtian still managed to defeat the Venerable One's clone. Although he was eventually killed by the mysterious powerhouse, Li Lingtian had defeated the Dark Abyss Patriarch with the Hell King Blade. As long as he was serious, the Dark Abyss Patriarch would not be able to kill Li Lingtian even if he could not kill the Dark Abyss Patriarch. The great battle had ended at this point. The situation in the middle was unpredictable. The great battle of a kingdom had evolved into a battle of array formations, and in the end, it had become a great battle of the martial gods. In the end, a martial saint actually fought a martial god. The outcome was beyond the expectations of all the experts. The powerhouses from the various kingdoms felt their hearts tremble when they saw Li Lingshan's strength. Li Lingtian was no longer a warrior sage powerhouse, but a super powerhouse who had killed a martial god. In total, Li Lingtian had killed 6 martial gods. In other words, the martial god powerhouses who appeared in front of Li Lingtian were all killed by him. In the end, even the Venerable One was killed. Li Lingtian cultivated the Dragon Clan's cultivation method, the Devil Clan's cultivation method, and the Underworld's treasures. All of his methods were heaven-defying. This piece of information gave countless powerhouses and kingdoms a new understanding of Li Lingtian. Reorganize the army and attack the Great Shang Kingdom. Li Lingtian waved his hand and shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and he returned to the war god. As soon as he entered the war god, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Poochie! He spat out a mouthful of blood and his expression became extremely ugly. In the beginning he had been injured, but when faced with this terrifying martial god and venerable, he could only forcefully hold on. However, now that the powerful enemy had been dealt with, he could no longer hold on. Young master! Young master! Big brother Lingtian! Husband! Seeing Li Lingshan's condition, everyone cried out in surprise. Tang Qingyue and the others quickly rushed forward to protect Li Lingtian. She looked at Li Lingtian with concern. Li Lingtian had sustained heavy injuries in the battle. Find a quiet place. I want to cultivate and heal my injuries. For the battle, Aotian and the gorilla demon are enough. The 2 of you will assist in the battle, and try to make the Carefree Empire have the strength to compete with the Mystic Moon Empire in a short period of time. Li Lingtian waved his hand and instructed Aotian when he saw him. He then turned and entered the war god. This subordinate will do it now. Aotian bowed seriously and left the war god. Tianchengzi followed the war god. The war god quickly left the capital city of Heaven's Roars and flew into the distance. After the battle ended, the Carefree dynasty's army was completely reorganized, clearing out the remaining forces of the Kingdom of Heaven's Roars. Li Lingtian and the rest left the capital city of Heaven's Roars and disappeared from sight. On the battlefield, there were only 30 million soldiers and countless elites from the Carefree Empire left. At this time, the nine-headed war god had the addition of the martial god Yuneotian and a level 1/9 tier demonic beast like the gorilla demon. To the army, it was definitely a killing weapon. With 2 war gods in the army, they were invincible. At the same time, the experts and secret agents of the various kingdoms told him about the outcome of the battle. In an instant, the entire Mystic Moon Empire was shaken. Li Lingshan's terror had given the powerhouses of the Mystic Moon Empire and the various kingdoms a new understanding. This Li Lingtian was not a martial saint at all. He was the nemesis of the martial god. He was so young, yet he was able to kill a martial god at the martial saint realm. Who would be able to suppress him in the future? Li Lingshan's reputation was the hottest topic in the Mystic Moon Empire, as well as the kingdoms around it. Li Lingshan's reputation was comparable to the great emperors of the 3 great empires. Even the great emperors of the 3 great empires were not as famous as Li Lingtian. There was a saying in the Mystic Moon Empire and the surrounding kingdoms, they would rather offend the kingdom than Li Lingtian. Indeed, there was nothing wrong with that. Li Lingtian was the divine martial continent's #1 divine alchemist, and he was able to refine peerless mutated pills. His cultivation was only at the first firmament of the martial saint realm, but he was already a martial god. Furthermore, it was not luck that he had killed the martial god. He had killed 6 martial god powerhouses in succession. The martial god powerhouses who had gone against Li Lingtian had all been killed. This Sir Lingtian's strength is too terrifying. The 25-year-old #1 divine pill refiner has earned him the title of #1 divine pill refiner in the divine martial continent. That's right. He reached the martial sage realm at the age of 25 and was actually able to kill a martial god realm expert. In 20 years, even if I kept cultivating, I wouldn't be able to reach the martial saint realm. Moreover, I'm cultivating the devil arts and dragon clans arts. How did I cultivate? Looks like the Mystic Moon Empire is in danger. Have you heard? Other than the few kingdoms unified by the Xiaoyao dynasty, the other kingdoms have all made their moves. I've known about this for a long time now. The 6 kingdoms are fighting each other, and the kingdoms fear the carefree empire. Surrendering or resisting has become the most difficult choice for the kingdoms. Below the Mystic Moon Empire, there were matters regarding the carefree empire and a few other kingdoms. In the Mystic Moon Empire, the most talked about topics were Li Lingtian, the carefree empire, and the remaining kingdoms. However, the Mystic Moon Empire didn't move at all. This situation confused countless experts in kingdoms. Moreover, the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire had also taken action in secret. In an instant, the entire Xiannu was in turmoil and flames of war rose everywhere. Chapter 823. The Furious Netherworld Ancestor 1. After Li Lingshan's war god left the capital city of Heaven's Roars, it quickly flew into the distance. Within a radius of billions of miles around the Free and Unfettered Dynasty, everything was under the Free and Unfettered Dynasty's control. The original Moonsong Kingdom, 100 Spirit Kingdom, Yuhan Kingdom, Southwind Kingdom, and Heaven's Roars Kingdom had now become the combined 5 kingdoms of the Free and Unfettered Dynasty, forming a huge dynasty. However, Li Lingtian knew that although the carefree empire was huge, its true strength was not enough to fight against the Mystic Moon Empire. Even if all the kingdoms were united, they would not be a match for the Mystic Moon Empire. At this point, it was impossible to retreat. Moreover, this matter concerned Yun Yaoyao's information, so he couldn't retreat. Only after the army arrived at Mystic Moon Holy City could he see that mysterious girl in white again. That girl in white was the only person who knew about Yun Yaoyao. He wouldn't let go of a single detail about Yun Yaoyao. After flying for half a day, the war god finally arrived at the sea between the Kingdom of Heaven's Roars and the Kingdom of Epsilon. His injuries were very serious now, and he needed to find a safe place to recover. He naturally did not need to deal with these matters. Longda would naturally take care of them. In the end, the war god came to an island in the sea. The island was only 100 miles in radius, but the spiritual energy on it was extremely dense. The war god stopped at the edge of the island. The array was activated, and the war god was hidden. If no super powerful warriors came here, they wouldn't be able to discover the existence of the war god. Besides, there were no signs of humans on this island. No one had come here at all. Big brother Ling Tian, do you want us to help you? After settling down, Li Ling Tian and the others were still on the war god. However, the war god was as tall as an island and they could easily walk to the island. There were countless powerhouses on the war god, and they were all supreme martial saints. They were all the most trusted subordinates of Long Da, and all of them were at the fifth sky of martial saint realm. Although such experts were nothing in the war between the kingdoms, even the martial god might not have the confidence to defeat them when hundreds of fifth sky martial saints joined forces. The war god was the safest, and there was also a martial god like Tian Qingzi. Li Ling Tian sat cross-legged in the practice room. Tang Genji and the others stood by his side and watched him heal. In half a day's time they had already checked Li Lingshan's injuries. This time his injuries were more serious than before. The main reason was that when he used the true dragon qi, the true dragon qi of a world entered his dantian. With his cultivation, if not for the balance of the heaven and earth reincarnation art and his terrifying physique, he would have long disappeared. Furthermore, after the battle with the supremacy, the true dragon qi that he had forcefully suppressed was scattered everywhere. Fortunately, he had defeated the Dark Nether ancestor in the end. Right now, he was using the true dragon body barrier and the heaven and earth reincarnation art to suppress the true dragon qi on the war god. Tang Ziming asked seriously when she saw Li Lingtian recuperating. If the five sisters worked together in Xinyuan Yingying's five-element sacred body, they would definitely be able to help Li Lingtian. No need. The other injuries are nothing. It's mainly the true dragon qi. This true dragon qi can only be resolved by myself. Li Lingtian spoke calmly before he gestured for Tang Ziming and the others to leave. He wanted to heal himself in the practice room. He was worried that the dragon energy that was destroyed this time would affect Tang Genji and the others. Then we'll go out first. If there's anything, we'll come in immediately. Huang Fuyan and the rest left the practice room and sat down to meditate not far away from the practice room. They took turns monitoring the place with their divine perception. If there was anything unusual, they would enter to help Li Lingtian. After Tang Genji and the others left, Li Lingtian slowly released the true dragon qi that was suppressed in his dantian. The dragon energy of a world was extremely terrifying. Although this dragon energy had already been used, it was forcefully suppressed into his body in the end, almost instantly destroying him. If he wanted to solve this problem now, he could only refine it. However, refining the dragon energy of a world was easier said than done. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In the practice room the strong wind kept swirling. The dragon energy was about to burst the practice room. Li Lingtian activated the true dragon body barrier, used the heaven and earth reincarnation to balance his body, and used the five elements sacred body to stabilize the overbearing dragon energy. In an instant, Li Lingshan's entire body was suspended in the air. He sat cross-legged and spun rapidly in the direction of the dragon energy's rotation. The dragon energy in his body was also rapidly changing. Puchi. In the divine martial continent there was a barren land. This place was called the Savage Land by the people of the divine martial continent. Although Yuzhou province was dominated by demons, those who knew the inside story didn't think so. Although the Serenity Plains didn't seem as powerful as the Black Continent and the Divine Continent, it was still a vast land several times larger than the Black Continent. This place not only had the tacit understanding of the demon race, but also the sinister aura of the underworld. There was also the endless frozen snow region and a powerful mysterious race here. The icebound snow region was one of the most mysterious places in the divine martial continent. In the depths of the endless glaciers and snow region, an old man spat out a mouthful of blood. The old man's expression was extremely ugly, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. If Li Lingtian were to see this old man, he would be able to recognize him at a glance. This old man was none other than the Dark Nether Patriarch. However, the current Dark Nether Patriarch was his true body, and his strength was extremely terrifying. He was known as one of the 10 great supremacies in the icebound snow region and a 9th firmament martial god supremacy. The old man sat cross-legged, but he spat out a mouthful of blood. Detestable, too detestable. How dare you kill my clone? Oh, make sure you wish you were dead, Li Lingtian. And those from the divine palace of the immortal realms, This old ancestor will fight you to the death. The dark nether ancestor opened his eyes, and a vicious light flashed in them as he spoke fiercely. At that moment she hated Li Lingtian to the bone. His avatar had been defeated, and even his original Bodhis power had been destroyed. His current cultivation had dropped by more than half. He had originally reached the peak of the 9th level of the martial god realm, but now he had almost fallen to the 9th level. Second brother, what's wrong? At that moment another old man walked in. When he saw the Dark Nether Patriarch's appearance, a puzzled expression appeared on his face. However, when he realized that the Dark Nether Patriarch's cultivation had fallen, his expression quickly changed. In the end, his expression became extremely gloomy. Big brother, we failed this time. The Dark Nether progenitor looked at the old man who had come forward, and the anger in his eyes became even stronger. If it was not for the future of his frozen snow region, he would not have taken such a risk. Now that a few martial gods had died, his cultivation had also fallen. What? Failed? What happened? Why did your cultivation fall? Venerable Inxian exclaimed. To him, killing Li Lingtian was a piece of cake. No matter how powerful a martial saint powerhouse was, he was only a martial saint. Any martial god would be able to wipe him out. This time, in order to guard against the other martial god experts, they had sent 4 martial god experts. Moreover, the clone of the Dark Nether ancestor had also gone with them. It was to ensure that those things would fall into the frozen snow region without any mishaps. How could he not be shocked when he heard the Dark Nether ancestor say that the matter had failed? If the 4 war gods couldn't do it, other experts must have intervened. Moreover, his second brother's cultivation had fallen, which made him even more puzzled. There was no venerable in the Black Continent, so no one could stop them from doing good things. Big brother. That Li Lingtian is too terrifying. The first sky of the martial saint realm can cast all kinds of heaven-defying divine abilities. Their power is not something that ordinary martial saints can compare to. Moreover, he also controls several peerless divine artifacts. What's even more detestable is that he actually knows the cultivation techniques of the dragon race and the devil race. It actually broke my 3 kowtows of Hades. The underworld king blade was the one that broke the 3 kowtows of Hades. I don't know if it was someone from the immortal realm or the divine palace who attacked and completely killed my avatar. The Dark Nether Patriarch's face brimmed with anger. He wished he could tear Li Lingtian apart when he thought of him. He angrily recounted everything that he had encountered. When he spoke of Li Lingtian, there was a look of fear on his face in addition to his anger. Subconsciously, he was afraid of Li Lingtian. A young martial saint actually had such monstrous strength. It had completely exceeded the scope of his imagination. Similarly, the expression on Inxian's face kept changing. His second brother would not lie. Someone who could make his second brother so afraid must be extremely terrifying. However, he would never believe that a martial saint was so powerful. There's actually such a powerful martial saint. Looks like we can't keep this person alive. Otherwise, he'll be a future threat to my frozen snow region. He already knows that you are from the icebound snow region. Now that he's not strong enough, he naturally won't come to the snow region to find us. If we wait until his cultivation increases, he'll definitely be a future trouble for our snow region. Don't worry about this matter. It's better for you to stabilize your injuries and cultivation. I'll handle this matter. Let's see how long you can last for a mere martial saint. Inxian said indifferently. After that, he turned around and left the palace. Only the Dark Nether ancestor was left in the palace. The palace was eerie and cold. After the Dark Nether ancestor let out an angry voice, the attack fell silent. Li Lingtian had reached the most critical moment. The terrifying True Dragon's QJ continued to tear Li Lingtian apart. However, the True Dragon's body protection technique continued to recover. The 5 elements sacred body and heaven and earth reincarnation art balanced his body so that it would not collapse. Li Lingtian's face was filled with agony. He spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood in a row, but his face looked much better after that. He exclaimed in surprise, and his expression became strange. The true essence in his body surged rapidly and actually reached the point of breaking through. This situation completely exceeded his expectations. He did not expect that the true dragon chi was not stable, and his realm actually loosened. It seemed that this battle had helped him a lot. Although he was injured, his realm had loosened. Chapter 824. Second Sky of the Martial Saint Realm. The loosening of the realm meant that there was a chance for a breakthrough. Originally, it was really difficult for experts to find an opportunity to break through. They were eager to break through. Every breakthrough would make him countless times stronger. The increase in his realm meant that his strength would have a breakthrough. It was even more so for martial saint powerhouses. They often stopped at one realm for their entire lives. For the experts of the divine martial continent, it was extremely difficult for them to break through to the next realm. It was even more so for those above the supreme realm. Some geniuses like Li Lingtian were stuck in the first heaven for their entire lives. He did not expect that he would have the opportunity to break through not long after he broke through to the first sky of the martial saint realm. However, he smiled bitterly now. He did not want to break through at this time. Because the true dragon chi in his body had not been resolved, loosening his realm would only cause trouble. If anyone knew his current expression, it would be strange if they didn't cripple him. It was difficult for others to break through, but he didn't want it. However, how many people in Xianzhou dared to provoke him so easily? As long as he did not provoke others, it would be their luck. Things have come to this. So be it. Li Lingtian sighed as he activated the true dragon body barrier and the heaven and earth reincarnation technique. For the first time, he activated both techniques at the same time. He stabilized the dragon energy's impact while activating the heaven and earth reincarnation technique to break through. However, his thinking was too simple. The true dragon chi could not be stopped at all and was out of control. The loosening of the realm was caused by the true dragon chi. Now that his realm had loosened, the true dragon chi was even more violent. For a moment, Li Lingtian was completely confused and did not know what to do. For the first time, he felt helpless, and his face revealed a blank expression. Suppress your cultivation level. Li Lingtian hardened his heart. It was not difficult for him to break through to the second firmament of the Saint Realm. However, if he did not resolve the true dragon's chi, he would be courting death. He did not want to be killed by the true dragon's chi now. The heaven and earth reincarnation chant slowed down and began to suppress the loosening of his realm. He accelerated the circulation of the true dragon protection technique and quickly refined the true dragon chi. Seconds passed. Li Lingtian's face was filled with pain. After some time, Li Lingtian opened his eyes with a calm expression. His entire person became calm and gradually, an excited smile appeared on his face. The sixth layer of the true dragon body barrier. Second sky of the martial saint realm. Li Lingtian said lightly, but he burst out laughing at the end. He had never expected that the true dragon chi would form the sixth layer of his true dragon body barrier. After the true dragon chi was resolved, he took the opportunity to break through the first sky of the martial saint realm and successfully reach the second sky of the martial saint realm. Feeling the powerful true essence in his body, the confidence on his face became even stronger. In the martial saint realm, each level was like a world. Compared to a martial emperor or a martial venerable, it was on a completely different level. After reaching the martial saint realm, there was a huge difference between each level. Every heaven was a world apart, a world apart. The power of a second heaven martial saint was at least 10 times stronger than a first heaven martial saint. It would be strange if Li Lingtian was not excited by such a powerful ability. To other martial saints, the difference between first heaven and second heaven was also very big. However, in front of him they were simply like ants. However, his own first heaven and second heaven were worlds apart. The sixth level of the true dragon body barrier was even more terrifying. The first 3 levels were the most basic levels of the true dragon body barrier, and the 4th, 5th, and 6th levels were another advanced level. The 6th level was even more powerful. It was many times stronger than the 5th level. This was not a difference in strength but a qualitative change. There was a world of difference between the two. There were 2 major realms between a true dragon and a Yinglong, just like the difference between a martial saint and a martial god. The power of the flying rain dragon had reached the power of the flying rain dragon. It could roam the world and tear through the void. Its defense could match the attacks of the martial god. When it was used, the 6-winged dragons flew together. The power to tear the world apart was enough to destroy even a martial god expert. Yinglong was the true expert. He had some rivals among the human race. At this moment, the door of the training room was opened. Tang Qingyue and the others walked in with concerned expressions. She quickly came to Li Lingshan's side and kept sizing him up. "Lingtian, how are you?" Tang Qingyue looked anxious when she saw Li Lingtian asking first. The other girls were looking at Li Lingtian, waiting for his reply. She wondered how Li Lingtian was doing. "Ha ha ha ha. Yan Qingyue mei meng meng qingling ying. I've broken through to the second sky of the martial saint realm and reached the 6th layer of the true dragon body protection." Li Lingtian stood up and laughed out loud. However, when he saw Tang Qingyue and the others' worried expressions, he quickly told them about his current situation to cheer them up. Actually, there was no need to say whether his injuries had recovered. This was because as long as he broke through, it meant that his injuries were no longer affected. "Really? That's great. I didn't expect Big Brother Ling Tian to actually break through. Second sky of the martial saint realm, 6th layer of the true dragon body protection. Your cultivation has improved. This is really a blessing in disguise." Huang Fuyan and the others were stunned for a moment, but they quickly reacted and were extremely excited. Li Lingtian had defeated the martial god and killed the venerable. Despite his injuries, he had achieved a breakthrough. It was extremely difficult for Li Lingtian to achieve a breakthrough. He did not expect Li Lingtian to achieve a breakthrough and even the true dragon body barrier. The breakthrough of the true dragon body barrier was not like the breakthrough of a martial saint but like the breakthrough of a martial emperor. "That's right. I didn't expect that the dragon chi in this world would help me reach the 6th layer of the true dragon body protection and the second sky of the martial saint realm." Li Lingtian nodded and replied happily. "Let's go. They're still worried. Let them be happy." With a smile on her face, Xinyuan Yingying tugged at Li Lingtian and dragged him out. Although Li Lingtian had just achieved a breakthrough, his realm was not a problem. Furthermore, as long as he did not use his true essence, his realm would not be affected at all. Soon after, Li Lingtian and the others left the practice room and went outside. Ji and the others were overjoyed when they learned that Li Lingtian had achieved a breakthrough. The powerhouses on the war god were also extremely excited. Li Lingshan's abilities and methods were all heaven-defying and powerful. With every breakthrough in his realm, his power would skyrocket to a terrifying level. Compared to before, he would be even more heaven-defying. With such a master, he was naturally incomparably happy. It was also a form of pride. It was impossible for a martial saint to fight a martial god in the divine martial continent. Even if a first sky martial saint could escape from a 6th sky martial saint expert, it would still be an extremely sensational matter. However, Li Lingtian had managed to kill 6 martial god powerhouses and a venerable's avatar in less than a year when he was still a first firmament martial saint. Such strength was beyond the imagination of the experts of the divine martial continent. The war god was filled with laughter as Li Lingtian and the others returned to their own quarters and resumed their normal lives. Tang Qingyue and the others could deal with the war outside. In fact, they didn't need to deal with it. In the battle ahead, there was Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others, as well as Yuneo Tian and the gorilla demon. There was no kingdom that could resist the Xiaoyao dynasty's army. The Xiaoyao dynasty's army was getting stronger and stronger, and their strength was getting more and more terrifying. Wherever it passed, it was invincible. Besides, even if there were some battle reports, they would be handled by Long Da, and Tang Qingyue and the others would be in charge of some important matters. Li Lingtian was too lazy to care about the war. He needed to stabilize his realm and improve his abilities. He would only show himself when he encountered problems during the war, or when the army arrived at the Mystic Moon Sacred City. My current cultivation base has basically stabilized, but I still need to control the other divine powers and treasures. You guys too. Raise your cultivation so that you can help me in the future. Li Lingtian sat on the war god's chair with a look of enjoyment on his face. At this time he was basically carefree, cultivating in peace and enjoying life. As for other matters, he would not worry about them at all. When the time came, he would resolve them and take one step at a time. Moreover, everything was under his control. However, The only thing he was worried about was the super experts of the Mystic Moon Empire and the Dark Nether ancestor of the Frozen Snow region. Even a fool would know that the free and unfettered dynasty would fight the Mystic Moon Empire if they attacked other kingdoms. The Mystic Moon Empire would definitely be heaven-defying. At that time it would definitely be a battle of the peak. From what they said, it seemed like the Dark Nether progenitor wanted to obtain something from him. Although he was not sure, he had killed the clone of the Dark Nether progenitor. The Dark Nether progenitor would naturally not let this matter rest. He had some confidence in dealing with ordinary First Firmament Martial God Realm experts, but against heaven-defying supremacies, he would directly disappear into thin air when he encountered the true body of a supremacy. If the old man from Netherworld came to the Black Continent, he would be in danger. Now, he had to control his strength and increase it. Yes, you've reached the second sky of the Martial Saint Realm now. As long as you can control the second sky of the Martial Saint Realm and some techniques and treasures, it'll be of great help to your strength. Moreover, your true dragon body protection has reached the 6th level. This is not a small improvement. During this period of time, we will mainly focus on cultivating our joint attacks. When we encounter experts, we will work together with you and Yingying. Even if we face a super expert, we will have the strength to fight. Huang Fuyian nodded in agreement with Li Lingshan's words. Faced with the divine martial continent's might, Li Lingtian was still unable to do it alone. They had to improve their cultivation base so that they could help Li Lingtian. Following that, Li Lingtian and the rest rested while cultivating on the war god. Moreover, he would pay attention to the movements of the Mystic Moon Empire, the Heavenly Sun Empire, and the Sky Blue Empire from time to time. Under Long Da's command, countless powerhouses were lurking in the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire. Li Lingtian did not let go of any of the strange news he received as the true battle in Xianzhou had already erupted in secret. Chapter 825. The Power of the Yinglong. The power of the Yinglong. Condense the body of a true dragon and reach the Yinglong realm. I've already reached the 6th level of the true dragon body protection, but I haven't completely controlled the power of the Yinglong. On the war god, Li Lingtian spent his days stabilizing his realm and cultivating the true dragon's body barrier, or controlling various treasures and divine powers. After a while, the second sky of the Martial Saint realm was stabilized. However, he had yet to completely control the 6th layer of the true dragon body protection. Breaking through to the 6th layer did not mean that he had already controlled the 6th layer. He looked at the vast sea and said indifferently. Their expressions were calm. Tank Genji and the others were playing and cultivating on the war god. They had been here for a full month and Li Lingtian had made great progress in that 1 month. However, at his realm, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to advance even a little. To be able to say that he had improved greatly was already heaven-defying. Roar! With a roar, his body turned into a true dragon. The true dragon's power erupted. Then, the true dragon quickly transformed into a 200-meter-long Yinglong. The power of the Yinglong was unleashed to the extreme. With a swing of its huge body, the entire sea area was overturned, stirring up a 1,000-meter-long wave. In the sky, a tearing force continued to tear the space apart. The sea area also continued to tremble in front of the destructive dragon energy. The shocking power seemed to be able to knock down the sun, moon, and stars. Roar! Rip! Gotcha! Tang Qingyue and the others were looking happily at the giant winged dragon in the void, because it was Li Lingshan's incarnation. The Yinglong roared again. Its pair of claws made a tearing gesture in the void and pulled fiercely to both sides. Immediately, a 1,000-mile-wide crack was torn in the space, and the space began to shatter. The Yinglong entered the crack, and the destructive astral winds continued to ravage his powerful body. Roar! 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 A series of roars filled with pain and unwillingness resounded through the 9 heavens. The waves in the ocean were 10,000 meters high, and the air was distorted. Boom! After a full 10 minutes, the Yinglong quickly fell towards the sea. The spatial rift also disappeared and closed again. The Yinglong entered the sea area. The surface of the sea area was also dyed red by the blood on the Yinglong's body. In the spatial crack, There were destructive gales and mysterious destructive substances. These things could destroy the defenses of experts and have a destructive impact on experts. Even a martial god powerhouse would not dare to provoke this gale. However, Li Lingshan's Yinglong form needed to use this gale to temper his body. The body of a true dragon was powerful by itself. It was the strongest existence in the demon race and the myriad spirits in the world. The true dragon's qi was even more overbearing. Li Lingtian had the dragon qi of the 3,000 worlds, but he was not satisfied with his current state. Although it was powerful to use dragon qi to temper his body, no matter how strong his body was, he still had to rely on his own experience. Only after going through a destructive blow could he become stronger. The astral winds were undoubtedly the most terrifying attack. They had such destructive power against experts. Now that he had reached the 6th layer of the true dragon body protection, he already possessed the power of the Yinglong and transformed into the Yinglong. After transforming into a winged dragon, it could reach a height of 10,000 meters at its peak. Its wings could reach 1,000 meters, and its power could break the heavens. Li Lingshan's true dragon body barrier had just reached the 6th layer, and could only reach 200 meters in size. His wings were only 20 meters in size, and he could travel 1,000 miles in an instant. After reaching the power of the Yinglong, his entire person had a heaven-defying breakthrough. That was to say, regardless of his realm and cultivation, his strength was already comparable to a martial god expert. It was just that the power of the Yinglong was too heaven-defying, and the consumption was also extremely terrifying. Boom! The ocean's 10,000-meter waves surged into the sky. Li Lingtian transformed back into his true form and returned to the war god. The blood on his body had been washed away by the seawater, but he was indeed not in good spirits. He had just torn the void and used the astral winds to temper his body and strength. The consumption was extremely terrifying, and he was also injured quite badly. Tang Genji and the others were upset by Li Lingshan's condition, but they did not dare to disturb him. They understood that Li Lingtian had to go through countless trials if he wanted to improve. As a man, he had to go through trials. Back on the war god, Li Lingtian sat cross-legged and quickly absorbed the heaven and earth spirit qi to recover from his injuries and quintessential essence. At the same time, he felt the tempering he had just obtained. Although tempering only refined the body, it also improved his strength. He sensed the changes in his body when he was attacked by the astral winds. The Yinglong was powerful and heaven-defying, but it had its own talent. After a full hour, he had completely recovered. He also understood in his heart that Yinglong's talent was strength and speed. His strength could break the heavens and travel 10,000 miles in an instant. Although it was huge, it was extremely agile. Even if a human expert cultivated the fastest movement technique, they would not be as fast or agile as him. Moreover, Yinglong's control over space had already reached the limit. Roar! The figure turned into a Yinglong. Its huge wings flapped, and its entire body had already entered the void. Its huge claws ruthlessly tore through the void, and a cracking sound rang out. A hole was torn in the void as the endless gales tore apart once again, tempering Li Lingshan's physique. Just like that, Li Lingtian tempered his body with the astral wind every day, and refined his body with the true dragon's qi at night. His cultivation base continued to improve. A month passed just like that. After a month, a faint smile appeared on Li Lingshan's face. He had gained control of the Yinglong power. Boom! On this day, Li Lingtian had finished his cultivation. He looked up at the sky with a cruel expression on his face. Suddenly, a black dot appeared in the sky. The black dot instantly became incomparably huge. It was 100 meters wide and its entire body was pitch black. Li Lingshan's eyes gleamed when he saw the black flying demonic beast. His body transformed into a winged dragon. At this moment, a 1,000-meter-long winged dragon appeared in the sky and flapped its 100-meter-long wings. His body turned into a meteor and flew towards the black flying demonic beast in the blink of an eye. With an explosive sound, the Yinglong's huge claws slapped fiercely at the black flying demonic beast. The black flying demonic beast felt the destructive demonic power, and it was the medicinal power of the demonic king. It immediately trembled and didn't dare to move at all. Seeing the huge claw coming at it, it didn't even have the consciousness to defend. In the blink of an eye, the black flying demon beast was destroyed. The 100-meter-long flying demon beast was like a chick in front of the Yinglong, instantly killed. A level 8 or level 9 demonic beast can't even withstand a single blow. Li Lingtian reverted to his true form and hovered in the air. He watched as the flying demonic beast turned into a bloody mist before he reached out with one hand and retrieved an inner core. He said calmly. Then, his figure flashed and he returned to the war god. Upon hearing Li Lingshan's words, all the powerhouses on the war god were stunned. Even Tianqingzi could feel his body trembling. A level 8 or level 9 demonic beast was equivalent to a 9th heavenly layer martial saint. Yet, Li Lingtian claimed that the other party was vulnerable after being killed in a single blow. This was merely an exaggeration. It was not a big deal for Li Lingtian to kill a level 8 or level 9 demonic beast, because it was only a 9th heavenly layer martial saint. However, they all understood that Li Lingtian had relied on his strength to kill his opponent without any tricks or skills. Tianqingzi, try attacking with your full strength, Li Lingtian shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, countless powerhouses standing on the plank vanished in the blink of an eye. All of them entered the war god and ran faster than ghastly shadow. This was because they had suffered a lot from Li Lingtian during this period of time. Every time Li Lingtian called for them to attack him, they were unable to break through his defense or break through the Yinglong power. On the contrary, they were knocked out by Li Lingshan's Yinglong power every time. Now that they saw Li Lingtian calling out Tianqingzi, they had a bad feeling and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Young master, I think there's no need. Tianqingzi revealed a bitter smile, but he still walked out and floated in the air with a pitiful expression. If this expression was seen by the experts outside, their jaws would drop. A powerful martial god expert was not retaliating and was even making such an expression. What was the meaning of this? This is the last time. If you can break through my defense, I'll reward you with a peerless congealing spirit pill. Li Lingtian smiled like a big bad wolf. In a flash, he left the war god and hovered above the sea. Tank Genji and the others chuckled when they saw the scene. Although Li Lingshan's current cultivation was only at the second firmament of the martial saint realm, his strength was enough to kill a martial god powerhouse. Moreover, the power of the winged dragon made his cultivation comparable to a martial god. In other words, as long as he used the true dragon body protection alone, he could raise the level of a demon cultivator to the first level of the martial god realm. It was the same for the devil race's true Saint Devil scripture. After the last battle, he had completely fused with the true Saint Devil scripture. He no longer had any doubts about the true Saint Devil scripture, because he understood that no matter what kind of cultivation technique it was used to kill people. It did not matter if it was a demon cultivation technique or a demon cultivation technique, as long as it could defeat the opponent it was fine. After all, it was not a race war. The winner was king, and the strong were respected. When he used the Saint Demon Quintessence alone, he could also make the level of the Demon Cultivator reach the level of the Demon Venerable. The Demon Venerable was equivalent to the realm of the Martial Saint. In the MO, the hierarchy was extremely strict. Only MO that had reached the Martial God realm were qualified to be addressed. They were the Demon Lord, the Demon Emperor, the Demon Emperor, the Demon Ancestor, and the Demon God. As for the above, there were some legends. However, some low-level demons also had their own titles, but those were self-proclaimed, such as Demon General, Demon King, and so on. Then I'll try my best. Young master, be careful. When Tianqingzi heard Li Lingtian mention the peerless coagulation pill, he was immediately excited. Even if Li Lingtian did not give him the pills as his subordinate, he had to obey his orders. It would be best if he had the pills now. With that said, he smiled and circulated his true essence to the limit. With a wave of his hand, a divine artifact appeared in his hand, causing the space to tremble. Chapter 826. Terrifying Defense. The pressure of the divine artifact and the terrifying strength of the martial god expert caused a storm to suddenly rise in the sea. Tianqingzi did not dare to be careless at this moment. Since Li Lingtian had instructed him to use his full strength, He would not hold back. This was because Li Lingtian wanted to check his defensive capabilities. If he held back, Li Lingtian would have misjudged his strength. Even if he were to injure Li Lingtian now, Li Lingtian was confident. He would rather have Li Lingtian injured now than have any accidents happen during Li Lingshan's battle in the future. Moreover, he had used his full strength in the previous few attacks. It was just that he did not use a divine artifact. An expert's physique was strong. He could not only withstand attacks with his bare hands, but also attacks with powerful treasures and divine arts. In the divine martial continent, what an expert used was not divine arts or treasures. Alright, let's do it. True Dragon Body Protection 6th level Yinglong Power. Li Lingtian knew what was on Tian Qingzi's mind when he saw Tian Qingzi bring out the divine weapon. Then the true essence in his body disappeared, and what came with it was a terrifying dragon qi, the qi of a true dragon. Its body transformed into a 1,000-meter-long Yinglong. Its huge wings flapped, and the space was constantly torn apart. Tidal waves surged into the sky in the sea area. It looked extremely terrifying, as if the end of the world had arrived. Roar! An earth-shattering roar rang out, and the space around it began to tremble. The power of the martial god sky-breaking strike. Tian Qingzi saw Li Lingshan's roar and knew that Li Lingtian had unleashed his defense. Without any hesitation, he unleashed all of his true essence and swung the middle-grade divine weapon in his hand. A destructive attack tore through space and headed straight for Li Lingtian. It was extremely fast and instantly struck the Yinglong. Boom! Gotcha! With a loud explosion, the destructive attack struck Li Lingshan's winged dragon, and it was blasted away. At the same time, the Yinglong's huge body, coupled with the impact of the attack, the speed and power of its flying directly tore through space. In the blink of an eye, it had already run 500 kilometers away and disappeared into the sky. Tian Qingzi was horrified to see this. The divine weapon combined with the martial god's most powerful attack was enough to destroy the world. Even the other martial god powerhouses would vanish into thin air after being hit, let alone Li Lingtian, who did not retaliate. Young master! Young master! Immediately, Tian Qingzi cried out in alarm. His body flashed and he quickly chased after Li Lingtian. Although the powerhouses on the war god had hidden themselves inside the war god, they were still watching Li Lingtian and Tian Qingzi. Although they did not want to attack Li Lingtian, they would not hesitate even if they had to die if Li Lingtian called out to them. Now that they had seen Li Lingtian being sent flying, they were extremely shocked. Their bodies flashed as they flew toward the horizon of the sea. Tang Qingyue and the others were equally shocked. They quickly left the war god and headed to the horizon to look for Li Lingtian. This unexpected turn of events was beyond everyone's expectations. In fact, they had underestimated the might of a martial god powerhouse because they had overestimated Li Lingshan's ability. A martial god powerhouse's attack was capable of destroying the world. However, the martial god powerhouse had lost its former glory in front of Li Lingtian. Boom! When all the powerhouses in Tian Qingzi chased after him to the horizon, Li Lingtian was nowhere to be seen. However, at this moment, a terrifying wave erupted in the sea area, and a huge Yinglong soared into the sky. There were bloodstains on its huge wings. Roar! The Yinglong roared. Its huge claws grabbed and pulled in the air, and a hole appeared in space. Seeing this, all the experts, including Tang Qingyue, were shocked. However, in an instant, Yinglong turned into a phantom and Li Lingshan's true form appeared. There was blood at the corner of Li Lingshan's mouth and his face was extremely pale. However, his expression was not that bad and his spirit was not as bad as he had imagined. The attack that was destroyed by a martial god expert was actually not blocked and could still be so easily done. This indeed shocked countless experts. For a moment they were all stunned. Tian Qingzi, your mother's eyesight is not good. You actually hit my wings. Li Lingtian glared at Tian Qingzi coldly and roared. He extended his hand and a terrifying fist shadow landed on Tian Qingzi's body. Tian Qingzi was still in a daze and did not react at all. By the time he reacted, his body trembled and he was thrown out. Poochie! Instantly, all the experts could not help but laugh. He did not expect Li Lingtian to say such a thing at this time. Furthermore, Tian Qingzi was too much. He had actually attacked the young master's wings. Was he asking for a beating? His crude words instantly drew the powerhouses closer to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was their master, yet he behaved like an ordinary person without putting on any airs. Mistake, it's a total mistake. Tian Chengzi's voice came from the direction of the war god. His voice carried a hint of shame. When he had attacked earlier, he had been too far away. He had originally intended to hit the Yinglong's huge body, but he had not expected to hit the Yinglong's wings. Big brother Lingtian, are you alright? Xin Yuan Yingying looked at Li Lingtian and asked with concern. The full force attack from the martial god and the divine weapon would have dissipated even if it hit the wings. It was indeed heaven-defying that Li Lingxian's Yinglong power was not destroyed. I'm fine, but my mind was shaken a little. Li Lingtian shook his head before leading everyone back to the war god. After returning to the war god, Li Lingtian began to treat his injuries. Although he was injured, it was not fatal. On the contrary, he was happy because he now knew his true defensive capabilities. Following that, Li Lingtian instructed all the powerhouses to cultivate for a period of time and return after a month. Join the war and quickly resolve the war between the kingdoms. After the war, it would be time to fight the Mystic Moon Empire. Tang Qingyue and the others also stepped up their cultivation. With Li Lingxian's current cultivation, there was no need for him to focus on cultivation. Instead, he focused on controlling the divine powers and treasures that he had already cultivated. As long as he could control them to the extreme, or even to the perfection state, his power would reach a new level. Moreover, his current cultivation was not suitable for rapid improvement at all, lest it affected his state of mind. If he really wanted to improve his cultivation, he could do dual cultivation with Tang Qingyue and the others. The 7 of them could cultivate together and use their true essence. This way, their cultivation speed could be increased by 7 times. With the addition of pills, their cultivation speed would be even faster. Alchemy was also a kind of rapid improvement. After consumption, one would quickly recover, and similarly, one's cultivation would increase rapidly. This was the so-called breaking and then building. He had already made arrangements. For now, it was best not to touch the other cultivation techniques and treasures. The true Saint Demon record would not touch the treasures of the demon race or the underworld, but he would not leave behind the treasures that had already been used. Time passed day by day. The people on the war god were all cultivating seriously. The Mystic Moon Empire was in chaos. The rise of the free and unfettered empire had terrified countless kingdoms in the Mystic Moon Empire, but they hadn't been optimistic about the free and unfettered empire in the beginning. However, after the Freedom Dynasty annexed Moonsong Kingdom, Li Lingtian defied the heavens and made a triumphant advance. He unified several kingdoms and rose to power, becoming the most powerful genius in the Mystic Continent. Li Lingxian's appearance was like a comet that made all the powerhouses and geniuses feel insignificant. Now that Li Lingtian had killed 6 martial gods and even Venerable Face's avatar, he had become the strongest powerhouse in the Black Continent. The Xiaoyao dynasty was invincible and swept through all the kingdoms. After he finished asking, the other experts also waited, wanting to know the emperor's decision. Chapter 827, Battle Invitation, 1. You guys just have to watch this matter carefully. When the time comes, Ben Gong will naturally pass the order to you. You'd better not provoke Li Lingtian before I give the order. If you fall, don't disgrace the Mystic Moon Empire. The voice of the woman behind the throne sounded. When the 10 martial god experts heard this voice, they were all stunned. The free and unfettered empire had rebelled against the Mystic Moon Empire. Yet the Mystic Moon Empire was still tolerating it. It was truly puzzling. However, no one objected to the sage emperor's words. Otherwise, they could only wait for death. We understand. If the Xiaoyao dynasty and the North Jin Kingdom win the war against the North Jin Kingdom, the North Jin Kingdom will definitely attack the Mystic Moon Empire. Will Your Majesty attack the North Jin Kingdom? The leader of the group was a second heaven martial god, and he was a member of the Elder Committee of the Mystic Moon Empire. His name was Bei Feng, and all the experts who saw him would address him respectfully as Lord Martial God Bei Feng. They were all afraid of Li Lingtian from the Carefree dynasty. However, If the North Jin Kingdom were to defeat the Carefree Dynasty, the North Jin Kingdom would definitely lead all their armies to attack the Mystic Moon Empire. Although the Mystic Moon Empire was under the control of the North Jin Kingdom, the North Jin Kingdom had never been willing to accept the Mystic Moon Empire. There were constant disputes between empires and kingdoms. At this time, martial god Northwind also wanted to see what the Sage Emperor would do to deal with this. Humph, how many chances do you think the Northern Jin Kingdom has? Even if the Northern Jin Kingdom wins and the army is dispatched, the Northern Jin Kingdom will be destroyed. The Saint Emperor harumphed coldly from behind the throne. His voice was extremely cold, and the entire palace felt as cold as an ice palace. Even the 10 martial gods felt a shiver run down their spines. This subordinate understands. Martial god Northwind and the others were shocked. It was hard to imagine that the Mystic Moon Empire would be so ruthless to the North Jin Kingdom despite being wary of Li Lingtian. They wondered what the Holy Emperor was thinking. However, the saint's heart was unpredictable, so they did not dare to speak up easily. In the end, they all took their leave and left the hall. Sir Saint Emperor, do you think that Li Lingtian is really that powerful? After the experts in the hall left, another voice came from behind the throne. It was also the voice of a woman. This Li Lingtian is indeed that powerful. He's not someone that an ordinary person can compare to. I hope he doesn't disappoint me. The Mystic Moon Empire and the North Jin Kingdom are nothing to him. I'm more worried about the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire. Now I'm worried about those people from the frozen snow region. If they come to take revenge, it'll be difficult to solve the problem. The Divine Emperor said calmly. His tone was extremely calm, but his voice was extremely beautiful. Gradually, the sound became softer and softer, and finally disappeared. The hall also became quiet, and finally it was silent. In the Mystic Moon Empire, there were a total of 12 kingdoms. They were divided into low-grade kingdoms, middle-grade kingdoms, and high-grade kingdoms. However, in a short year, the 12 kingdoms under the Mystic Moon Empire had a shocking change. Freedom King Dynasty rose up against the heavens, and in a year, the 12 kingdoms had unified 11 kingdoms. Now, only the North Jin Kingdom had not been unified. The army of the Xiaoyao Dynasty and the army of the North Jin Kingdom confronted each other in Pingxiang City near the God's Fall mountain range. The Xiaoyao Empire had a total of 90 million soldiers. Moreover, these soldiers had formed into 3 legions. They were more efficient and only the stronger soldiers could stay. The 90 million soldiers had gathered the elites of the 11 kingdoms. This way, Freedom King's strength had skyrocketed. Pingxiang City was a big city between the Mystic Moon Empire and the North Jin Kingdom. Now the army of the Xiaoyao Dynasty was gathered here. This was also the last kingdom war of the Xiaoyao Dynasty. As long as they could subdue the North Jin Kingdom, they could fight the Mystic Moon Empire. During this period of time, with Yun Aotian and the Gorilla Demon in the army, they were practically invincible and invincible. Since then, Li Lingxian's reputation had skyrocketed. There were no kingdoms that dared to oppose the Carefree Dynasty. It was undeniable that the kingdoms under the Mystic Moon Empire were not as powerful as the Carefree Dynasty, but they were extremely good at judging the situation. Knowing that the Carefree Dynasty was powerful, all the kingdoms submitted. They did not dare to resist and directly submitted. This way they could reduce the number of casualties. The Heavens Roar's capital city was an example. If it had submitted, it would not have been destroyed at all. However, he did not expect to rely on 4 martial god powerhouses and a supremacy avatar to go against the Carefree Empire, causing it to dissipate into thin air in the end. Brother Outyan, when do you think the young master can come here? On the war god, Marshal Saint Ming Luo looked at the tens of millions of troops and experts. Her blood was boiling. However, when she thought of the power of the Northern Jin Kingdom, the Carefree Dynasty had not made a move. It was because 4 martial god experts had appeared in the Northern Jin Kingdom. Their strength was extremely terrifying. Although they did not really fight, many of the experts of the Free and Unfettered Dynasty were killed. Although the Carefree Dynasty had gathered the armies of the 11 kingdoms, and had 2 martial god level existences, they had been undefeated throughout the journey. However, now that they had encountered the North Jin Kingdom, they had no confidence. After all, the North Jin Kingdom was able to compete with the Mystic Moon Empire, which meant that they must be powerful. If the Free and Unfettered Dynasty took the risk to attack the North Jin Kingdom, they would definitely fall into the North Jin Kingdom's trap. I have already sent the news to Great Commander Long. Looking at the time, it should be about time. I wonder how young Master's injuries are after 2 months? Yun Aotian was also by Martial Saint Ming Luo's side. Although one was a martial saint while the other was a martial god, there was no difference in cultivation realm between them. Yun Aotian understood that Martial Saint Ming Luo was only caught up in the battle. Once the battle was over, Li Lingtian would be able to raise his realm. There was no one beneath Li Lingtian who was worthy of showing off his realm because it was a piece of cake for Li Lingtian to create a person. During this period of time, although he had been in the army and the gorilla demon was also in the army, they had not made a move since the battle. They had only achieved a deterrent effect. After all, no kingdom had a martial god powerhouse. Even if there were, they would not be a match for 2 martial gods. Even if there were more martial gods, they would have to consider Li Lingtian. The Northern Jin Kingdom is too fucking shameless. They actually issued a letter of challenge and challenged the young master at the North Soaring Peak. For martial god experts joined forces to deal with the young master, and they did it so brazenly. I really have to admire the North Jin Kingdom's despicable and shameless ways. The Heavenly Monster King was furious. He wanted to tear the king of the Northern Jin Kingdom apart. How could he do such a thing? This news was also just received. Moreover, when he received this news, the Northern Jin Kingdom had already announced this battle to the world. The news immediately spread like wings. As it turned out, 2 days ago the Xiaoyao Empire's army had already arrived here. The 90 million soldiers had gathered here and were ready to fight. However, just an hour ago, the messenger of the Northern Jin Kingdom sent a letter of challenge. Lord Lingtian of Freedom King Dynasty is a genius. He's the #1 alchemy saint of the Divine Martial Continent, and is known as the #1 genius of the Divine Martial Continent. Now that the Free and Unfettered Dynasty is approaching the Northern Jin Kingdom, there will definitely be a destructive war between the Northern Jin Kingdom and the Free and Unfettered Dynasty. For the sake of the common people, I don't want the 2 countries to go to war. I hereby write this letter. If Your Excellency Lingtian can defeat the 4 experts of the Northern Jin Kingdom, the Northern Jin Kingdom will be under the management of the Free and Unfettered Dynasty. The time limit is 10 days later, on the 15th of August, at the peak of the Northern Soaring Peak. The letter of challenge was signed by His Majesty of the Northern Jin Kingdom, and it also carried the imperial seal of His Majesty. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others almost killed the emissary of the Northern Jin Kingdom on the spot when they saw the challenge letter. The Northern Jin Kingdom wanted to challenge Li Lingtian, and it was not a fair battle. For martial god realm experts challenged a martial saint realm expert. Such a challenge could be said to have broken the record of the Divine Martial Continent. The only good thing was that the North Soaring Peak wasn't part of the North Jin Kingdom, nor did it belong to the Mystic Moon Empire. It was an independent place, a no man's land. If they were to fight here, it would not affect the Northern Jin Kingdom or the Mystic Moon Empire. What's worse is that the Northern Jin Kingdom spread the news of the challenge to the young master. If the young master doesn't come, his reputation will be ruined. If he goes, he will be attacked by several martial god realm experts. In fact, if it were us, we could completely ignore this challenge letter because it's unfair. Even if the young master refuses, it's not something shameful. It's just a slap to the Northern Jin Kingdom. Martial Saint Yun Hao said faintly. At the end, his face revealed a vicious expression. Everyone in the world knew that it was unfair for 4 martial god powerhouses to challenge a martial saint. Even if Li Lingtian refused, it would not be embarrassing. Sigh, well, leave this matter to young master to handle. If it really comes to that and young master is in danger, it won't be too late for us to take action. If that happens, even the world won't say anything. After all, the strong are respected in this world. However, if young master accepts the challenge, it will raise the reputation and morale of the Carefree Dynasty, and also increase their cohesiveness. This way, the Carefree Empire will become even stronger. However, this time we have to be careful. We have to be careful of other experts. Yun Aotian said seriously. He was not worried about the martial god of the Northern Jin Kingdom but some hidden powerhouses. After all, Li Lingtian was too conspicuous and attention-grabbing. He was a future threat to countless powerhouses who wished to get rid of Li Lingtian. This news had already been sent out using a mysterious secret technique, and Longda had already received it. Once Li Lingtian arrived, they would have to wait for his plans and arrangements. This matter concerned Li Lingshan's reputation and future. More importantly, it concerned Li Lingshan's safety. After all, Li Lingtian was only a martial saint powerhouse. Since the other party was aware of Li Lingshan's strength, they must have some confidence in challenging him. Chapter 828. Heaven-destroying sword formation. Lease reading Omicron N. Novel Cool. Omicron M. The Northern Jin Kingdom is challenging Lord Ling Tian of the Freedom King Dynasty. He's at the Northern Supremacy Peak. The army of the Carefree Dynasty has already arrived at the Northern Jin Kingdom. The Northern Jin Kingdom actually wants to send 4 martial god experts to challenge Sir Ling Tian. What is it? It can't be. Shameless. The Northern Jin Kingdom is a great kingdom. How dare they use a martial god to challenge a martial saint? Don't you feel ashamed? Although Sir Ling Tian is extremely powerful, the Northern Jin Kingdom shouldn't be so shameless. Truly a disgrace to the kingdom. I'm from the Northern Jin Kingdom. I really regret being from the Northern Jin Kingdom. Sigh, the war between the two countries has actually reached this stage. Countless top-notch figures have gathered at the North Soaring Peak. This will be a grand occasion for the entire Black Continent. The next day, the entire Mystic Moon Empire was in an uproar. Regardless of whether it was the big cities in the commanderies, the countries or the kingdoms, the most lively event was the Northern Jin Kingdom's challenge to Li Lingtian. In an instant, the news of the battle at the peak of the North Soaring Peak spread throughout the entire Mystic Moon Empire. Moreover, even the powerhouses from the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire had rushed over from far away to the North Soaring Peak to wait for Li Lingshan's arrival. As a result, the experts and army of the Xiaoyao dynasty were even more furious. The entire Xianzhou knew about this. If Li Lingtian did not accept the challenge, it would affect his reputation. It was indeed detestable that the Northern Jin Kingdom would use such a tactic to deal with Li Lingtian. I didn't expect things to come to this. How could the Northern Jin Kingdom think of this? In the Mystic Moon Empire, a cold and sweet voice said. Her face was covered with a veil, and no one knew what expression she had. If Li Lingtian doesn't go this time, his reputation will be tarnished. However, if he wins, his reputation will be even more irreparable. However, no matter how powerful he is, it's impossible for him to be a match for 4 martial god experts. In the imperial palace of the Heavenly Sun Empire, an old man opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with a sharp light that was as sharp as lightning. I didn't expect the Northern Jin Kingdom to use such a shameless move. However, no matter how heaven-defying you are, you've lost this time. A faint smile appeared on Gong Sun Pioye's face. It was as if he had seen the moment he was defeated and killed, the day the Xiaoyao dynasty was destroyed. The Northern Soaring Peak was not a single mountain peak. It was a mountain range that stretched for hundreds of thousands of miles. The entire mountain range was extremely rich in spiritual qi, and there were high mountains everywhere. Each mountain peak was extremely dangerous. However, in the depths of the mountain range, there was a mountain peak that was 10,000 meters tall. The mountain peak was called the North Soaring Peak. The name of this mountain range came from the North Soaring Peak. Now, the previously unknown North Soaring Peak had become the most famous mountain in the entire Black Continent. Countless kingdoms, the 3 empires, and the experts and ordinary people in the world knew that the North Soaring Peak was about to welcome a showdown. The ruler of the Carefree Dynasty, the #1 alchemy saint of the divine martial continent, and a martial saint had become the target of the 4 martial gods of the Northern Jin Kingdom. This would be history and a miracle. This was because a first sky martial saint was actually defeated by 4 martial gods. What kind of concept was this? Whoosh whoosh. Swoosh swoosh. In the Northern Ling Mountain Range, experts could be seen flying over from time to time to spectate the battle. In just a few days, the Northern Ling Mountain Range was filled with experts. The experts of the Northern Jin Kingdom had been waiting for a long time here. Countless experts of the Carefree dynasty had also come here to observe the terrain clearly and check if there were any formations or other ambushes. The number of powerhouses increased, but there was no response from Li Lingtian. Everyone knew that the news came from the North Jin Kingdom. Li Lingtian from the Carefree dynasty had not responded at all. It was unknown if he would come to fight. Boring. The world was in an uproar. The news of the battle at the northern soaring peak was spread everywhere. However, Li Lingtian, who was the center of attention for the entire Xianzhou, was smiling faintly on the war god. After receiving Long Da's voice transmission and receiving the news, his face revealed a disdainful expression. Big brother Lingtian, are you going? Tang Ziming and the others knew about this matter and had different views on it. However, the consensus was that Li Lingtian should take it himself. As Li Lingshan's wife and family, they only cared about Li Lingshan's safety and did not care about his reputation. Although the Northern Jin Kingdom has a good plan, they can't expect it to come true. You want to rely on 4 martial gods to kill me? What a joke. We have to go, but we have to be careful of some things and conspiracies. Li Lingtian muttered to himself for a long time before he finally spoke. After that, his expression turned extremely cold. Since the other party had such a plan, they would fulfill their wish. In this way, they could also deal with the Northern Jin Kingdom. They all knew that the Northern Jin Kingdom was not simple, so they also wanted to take this opportunity to eliminate the Northern Jin Kingdom. He would be happy to defeat the Northern Jin Kingdom without using a single soldier. However, he had to take the risk and see what tricks the Northern Jin Kingdom would play in front of the experts. Today is the 7th day. Let's wait until the 10th day. You can have a good rest these 2 days and reach the peak of your mental state. Then you can defeat the experts of the Northern Jin Kingdom. Seeing that Li Lingtian had made up his mind, Huang Fuyuyan did not say anything else. Since there was no other way, heading to the North Soaring Peak was a good idea. To beat him at his own game depended on strength. In the end, whoever could stand until the end would be the winner. You guys go and rest first. I'll cultivate the myriad returning swords. Li Lingtian nodded and instructed Huang Fuyuyan and the others to rest while he cultivated myriad returning swords alone. This myriad returning swords had previously been cultivated to the transcendent state and had already reached the level of turning the rotten into the miraculous. However, during this period of time, he discovered that this myriad returning swords was not just a group attack. It was as simple as using the myriad swords. Moreover, its power could be raised to a higher level. It could fuse the sword control technique passed down from ancient mighty figures together, and use several of the strongest swords together to achieve destructive power. He divided this myriad returning swords into individual sword formations, which were the true sword formations of the heaven-destroying sword formation. The heaven-destroying sword formation was divided into 2 types. One was a sword formation and the other was a sword move. However, the sword moves and sword formations were both called the heaven-destroying sword formation. The sword howl of heaven and earth was a sword technique, and the myriad returning swords was a sword formation. However, he had truly comprehended the myriad returning swords now. It was not as simple as the myriad returning swords. The true terrifying sword array was hidden in the myriad returning swords. In the past, he only cultivated powerful divine powers and cascaded treasures. He rarely truly understood these divine powers and skills. The sword control technique was also included in this heaven-destroying sword formation. It was a sword control technique left behind by an ancient mighty figure. During this period of time, he had already fused the sword array and array path in the myriad returning swords and truly comprehended the heaven-destroying sword formation. Right now there are only the Tianyu sword, the heavenly fault sword, the heavenly one sword, and the divine martial profound heaven sword. There are only 4 powerful swords in total. I can only use the other divine artifact level swords. The 9 powerful swords form the 9 annihilating sword formation. When the time comes, I'll create my own set of swords. That way, I can evolve the sword formation to a higher level. Li Lingtian left the war god and arrived on the island with a faint smile on his face. As he muttered to himself, he activated his divine sense and the 3 heavenly swords and the divine martial mysterious heavenly sword appeared in front of him. Then he took out 5 divine weapons from the divine dragon ring. Suddenly 9 sharp swords floated in front of him and spun continuously. Myriad returning swords was one of the moves of the heaven-destroying sword formation, but it was the most mysterious move. Moreover, it was the key to the heaven-destroying sword formation. Only those with great opportunities and talent could comprehend the real heaven-destroying sword formation from the myriad returning swords. The heaven-destroying sword formation was also known as the 9-9 heaven-destroying sword formation, which had 9 layers. The first level required 9 Saint Artifact level swords to form a sword formation. Its power could destroy the heavens and earth, and it was extremely mystical. Li Lingtian had comprehended the heaven-destroying sword formation, which was also known as the 9-9 heaven-destroying sword formation. He had never expected this accident. He had never expected that he had never truly comprehended the heaven-destroying sword formation that he had always thought he had control over. Fortunately, he had comprehended it now. His consciousness moved, controlling the 9 sharp swords and casting spells. Immediately, his spiritual sense and magic seals controlled the sharp swords, and an incomparably magical sword formation appeared in front of him. Sword kinesis. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With a soft shout, Li Lingtian waved his hands and 9 sharp swords swiftly swept across the air. Wherever the swords passed, they carried a destructive aura, and there was a slight connection between the 9 swords. Gradually, the 9 sharp swords flew around Li Lingtian. The sky and earth were like 9 meteors dancing in the air. They were truly glowing, and the endless sword aura and sword radiance were everywhere. The space was cut into pieces by the sharp sword, and it was cut again after recovering in an instant. Instantly, Li Lingtian was suspended in the air as 9 sharp swords danced around with his consciousness. His consciousness was omnipresent, and so were the sharp swords. The sharp swords controlled by the consciousness were tens of thousands of times stronger than the myriad returning swords. Now, he understood that the myriad returning swords ultimately depended on one's cultivation realm and the strength of the treasure. It could also deal with countless experts of the same level, but it was not as powerful as the current 19 annihilating sword formation. Retract. Li Lingtian looked at the sword chi and the 9 sharp swords in the sky. A faint smile appeared on his face, but his divine consciousness had been greatly depleted. If this continued, he would not be able to cast the heaven-destroying sword formation for long. This was also because if it was the consciousness of other experts, they would not be able to support the execution of the 19 annihilating heaven sword formation at all. With a flick of his divine consciousness, the 9 sharp swords transformed into shooting stars and returned to Li Lingtian. The sharp swords were lined up in a row with destructive sword aura on them, and wisps of sword radiance wrapped around them. Chapter 829. The Battle of the North Soaring Peak 1. Lease reading Omicron N. Novel Cool. Omicron M. Li Lingtian retracted the 3 heavenly swords and the divine martial heavenly sword into his dantian. Then, he sat cross-legged and began refining the other 5 divine weapons. Although they were divine weapons, Li Lingtian did not take them seriously. This was because he also had peerless divine artifacts and ancient divine artifacts, as well as even more mysterious treasures. These treasures were rarely used, and there was no chance to use them. Naturally, he would not use some individual divine artifacts. Now, in order to cultivate the heaven-destroying sword formation, he could only make use of these divine weapons. Moreover, after the divine artifacts formed the sword formation, its power was countless times greater than before. It was no longer a single divine artifact, but a complete sword formation. A day had passed. After refining the 5 divine artifacts, he could put them back into his body. Following that, Li Lingtian spent most of his time revising his divine ability skills or calming himself down. The other option was to cultivate the heaven-destroying sword formation. He had already thought about it. He would probably have to use it on the North Soaring Peak this time. No matter which aspect it was, it would be disadvantageous for him to fight against 4 people alone. No matter how powerful he was only one person. Moreover, he was facing 4 martial god experts who were 1 realm higher than him. He could easily deal with a first firmament war god in a one-on-one battle, but it was still very difficult for him to deal with 4 people in a one-on-one battle. Therefore, he had been thinking about group attacks and defense. If he used a single attack, he would suffer the destructive attacks of the other three martial gods. He did not dare to take the risk of letting the martial gods attack him, unless he found a good opportunity to instantly kill the martial god, but such an opportunity was very difficult to find. In a great battle between experts, victory and death could be decided in a single thought. There would be no chance for one to use a powerful move. Now, he had finally found a few ways to deal with the enemy. Every time he fought, he would calculate the moves and cultivation techniques of the enemy in advance. There were also some accidents to consider. What if he encountered an accident? These were all things that he had to consider. An expert might seem to be using powerful methods to kill his opponent, but they were constantly scheming. Every step had gone through countless calculations. If he was not careful, he would not be killed. Li Lingtian had cultivated the divine soul's eye, and his mind had reached an extreme level. He was no match for a warrior. Hence, his reaction speed was the fastest during a battle. Time passed day by day. Finally, the 15th day of the 8th month arrived. On this day, countless experts could be seen in the entire northern Ling mountain range. They were all experts above the Martial Emperor realm because only Martial Emperor realm experts dared to come here. There were hundreds of thousands of powerhouses gathered in the northern soaring mountains. Most of them were martial emperors and martial saints. Although there were countless martial honors, they were all far away from the outskirts of the mountain range and were extremely far away from the northern soaring peak. Swoosh, swoosh. All of a sudden, the sound of air being torn apart continued, and super experts arrived from time to time. Although all the experts were gathered in the northern Ling mountain range, they did not dare to enter within 1,000 miles of the northern Ling mountain. This was because the war between the martial gods was an existence that could destroy the world. If they were too close, it would be too late for them to retreat. Isn't that the first martial saint of the mystic moon empire, Kong Qingtian? That's nothing. Look over there. He's a pseudo-martial god expert. There are quite a number of experts in the Heavenly Sun Empire. The experts of the Sky Blue Empire are also gathered here. It seems that there are quite a number of experts coming this time. This time, all the powerhouses of the entire Xian continent should have gathered. I wonder if Sir Lingtian will come. Actually, with his reputation, it doesn't matter if he comes or not. That's right. He's a first Sky Martial Saint, so there's no need for him to accept the challenge from the martial god. Besides, he killed 6 martial god experts and the avatar of a venerable in front of all the experts in the world. He's the #1 alchemy saint of the divine martial continent. Even if he doesn't come, it won't affect his reputation at all. On the contrary, he will give the Northern Jin Kingdom a slap in the face. What reputation? Even if he doesn't have a reputation, he doesn't care about fame at all with his powerful alchemy skills. In the northern soaring mountain range, powerhouses gathered. However, these powerhouses were completely insignificant under the halo of the Northern Soaring Peaks challenge. Countless experts discussed animatedly. The entire mountain range was extremely lively. Furthermore, countless renowned powerhouses from the Xian continent were gathered here to witness Li Lingtian's strength. I wonder if this Li Lingtian will come? 4 middle-aged men were sitting cross-legged on the peak of the northern soaring peak. They were expressionless. The 4 middle-aged men looked exactly the same. One could only tell from their clothes that they were the white-robed man, the black-robed man, the gray-robed man, and the blue-robed man. If they didn't have such clothes, even his parents wouldn't be able to tell them apart. The black-robed man said indifferently. He raised his head and looked into the distance as if he was waiting for something. He will come. When the time comes, he won't be able to return. The man in white closed his eyes to rest but answered as if he knew Li Lingtian very well. Let's be careful lest Li Lingtian defeats us one by one. The black-robed man reminded, his tone extremely cold. Could it be that a martial saint is really heaven-defying? Even if he is heaven-defying, he is just courting death in front of the 4 of us. After we settle this matter, we'll go back. There's nothing fun in this place, and it doesn't help our cultivation at all. The blue-robed man said disdainfully. He didn't put a martial saint in his eyes at all. However, we still have to be careful. If it doesn't work, The black-robed man's voice was still as cold as ever. However, when he finished speaking, His lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Instead, he used a secret voice transmission. Seconds passed by and it was already noon. However, Li Lingtian still did not show up. Countless powerhouses and armies from the Carefree dynasty were also in the mountains. They would be there to help if Li Lingtian was in any danger. Moreover, with the army and experts here, they wouldn't have to worry about the Northern Jin Kingdom using any other tricks. Another 2 hours had passed, but there was still no sign of Li Lingtian. Could it be that Sir Lingtian is really not coming? He probably won't come at this time. No matter how heaven-defying he is, he wouldn't do such a thing. It doesn't matter whether he comes or not. Anyway, it won't affect the reputation of the Carefree Empire or his name. No one is willing to take the risk, and it's a thankless task. Let's wait a little longer. If Sir Lingtian doesn't come, then we'll just go back. Whether they come or not, the Northern Jin Kingdom will lose face. As time passed, countless powerhouses began to discuss the matter. They were all suspecting that Li Lingtian would not come. Moreover, the Carefree Empire's powerhouses and army were relieved. If Li Lingtian did not come, they could still wipe out the North Jin Kingdom. Young Master is here. At this moment, Yun Aotian looked at the sky with an excited expression. However, there was worry in his excited expression. Young Master is here? The heaven-breaking pavilion is here? The experts from the Carefree Empire and the other experts asked in surprise. The calm sky was cloudless and there was no sign of a powerhouse. Naturally, they could not believe it when they did not even see Li Lingtian's shadow. That's right. Only the young master has this sword intent. It's impossible for this Xianzhou to have such powerful sword qi. Yun Aotian said seriously. In the end, his expression was filled with confusion and shock. Immediately, all the experts felt the change in the aura in the air. The destructive sword qi continued to wreak havoc in the air. He saw that it was already afternoon. It was time to end the battle. Moreover, this challenge was a technique. Time would exhaust the opponent's patience, and then he would use a destructive blow to ruthlessly crush the opponent's arrogance. The sixth layer of the true dragon body protection, the power of the winged dragon, was cultivated to the extreme. It could reach the point of instantly traveling 10,000 miles. Although he had not cultivated the power of the winged dragon to the extreme, he had cultivated it to the small success realm. It was an easy thing to travel 10,000 miles in an instant. Now that he was using his true essence, he could retain a little of his speed and movement technique. He could even travel 1,000 miles in an instant. As a result, when he arrived at the northern soaring peak and displayed his terrifying sword intent, the other powerhouses realized that his speed had completely exceeded the imagination of the 4 martial god powerhouses. Otherwise, they would not be in such a sorry state after being attacked by Li Lingtian, as they did not even have the slightest reaction. The sound of blood spurting rang out, and the 4 martial god powerhouses could no longer hold it in anymore. Originally, they were caught off guard by the void destruction and were on the verge of being destroyed. If not for the martial gods' defense and reaction, the 4 martial gods would have already been destroyed. It was not easy for them to use a secret technique to avoid this calamity, but the price they paid was very high. This price almost made them collapse. However, Li Lingtian's words had enraged him. Li Lingtian, don't you have any shame? He actually launched a sneak attack. Is this still the demeanor of the first alchemy saint? The gray-robed man's eyes revealed a vicious look, but he forced himself to admit it. However, after he said this, he regretted it. Saying such words in front of Li Lingtian was just asking for a beating. They had no standing to begin with, and now they were even calling him shameless. They were simply sticking their faces out for him to slap. Ha 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 ha. Sneak attack? Are you kidding me? Could it be that you are low-level martial artists? As a martial god expert, you're waiting for me to attack, yet you still dare to say that I ambushed you. You still have the nerve to say such shameless words. I have to admire your shamelessness. Besides, I'm a martial saint. You 4 martial gods really have the cheek to challenge me. I'm the #1 alchemy saint of the divine martial continent. What does it have to do with you guys? Can my demeanor be used as a meal? When Li Lingtian heard the man in gray's words, he could not hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. Then he started to counterattack. His voice was extremely loud and clear. It was like a dragon's roar that spread throughout the entire northern Ling mountain range. All the experts in the northern Ling mountain range heard it clearly. They had to endure it forcefully. After all, Li Lingtian had the ability and capability to laugh at the four martial gods. Although they wanted to laugh, mocking the war god in front of him was akin to courting death. However, they completely accepted Li Lingshan's words. It was already heaven-defying for a martial saint powerhouse to accept the challenge of four martial gods. It was not a sneak attack for a martial god powerhouse to be attacked by a martial saint. After reaching the martial arts grandmaster level, one would be a true martial artist. One would have to pay attention to the attacks of other experts at all times. There was no such thing as a sneak attack in this world. Moreover, martial artists' divine senses were powerful and could detect the opponent's aura from afar. This time, the four martial god powerhouses were attacked by Li Lingtian. It should have been impossible for Li Lingtian to enter the North Soaring Peak without being discovered by the other powerhouses, but Li Lingtian managed to do it. This terrifying scene shocked all the experts and they felt fear in their hearts. Just this movement technique and concealment technique alone were enough to make people feel afraid. To be by his side without knowing, this was the greatest threat to a martial artist. This time, if Li Lingtian had not unleashed his sword will, he would not have been discovered. Moreover, Li Lingshan's cultivation technique was extremely fast. When his aura appeared, his cultivation technique and divine power had already been unleashed. It could also be said that the aura was only discovered after the attack god art appeared. For a powerhouse, this was the most heaven-defying of all. The more powerful the divine power that a powerhouse cast, the more time it would take and the slower the casting speed. However, Li Lingtian could cast the heaven-defying divine power omnipresent in an instant. Damn it! The man in black listened to Li Lingshan's words. Even though he was calm, he could not hold it in anymore. Immediately, a shocking pressure erupted. The other three men also erupted with shocking pressure. In an instant, the entire northern Ling mountain range was suppressed by the destructive and terrifying pressure. The color of the sky changed. All the experts had ugly expressions on their faces. The pressure of a martial god was indeed powerful. It was not something that a martial saint could compare to. Furthermore, the pressure was unleashed by the combined might of four war gods. Now it seemed that the four martial god powerhouses were going to join forces to exert their pressure and use their advantage as martial god powerhouses to crush Li Lingtian. Only then could they wash away the humiliation they had brought upon themselves. All of a sudden, although the powerhouses felt the pressure of destruction, they did not want to leave. They wanted to see how Li Lingtian could withstand the pressure of the four martial gods, and how powerful he was. The army and powerhouses of the Carefree dynasty looked at Li Lingtian in admiration. At this moment, Li Lingtian was still floating in the air. The mighty pressure of a martial god powerhouse was right in front of him, causing his clothes to flutter in the wind. His entire person looked even more ethereal and dashing. 5 elements will of the great path, heaven and earth balance. The might of heaven and earth, the pressure is unparalleled. To everyone's surprise, Li Lingtian had no intention of launching an attack. Instead, he began to compete with the martial god powerhouse in terms of pressure. At once, Li Lingshan's voice was like an oracle. His voice reached the ears of the Carefree dynasty's army and powerhouses, stirring their blood. So, phew! Between heaven and earth, the will of the great path erupted. The entire heaven and earth was filled with the will of the 5 elements. The will of the great path came from heaven and earth. With the 5 Tao wills in this world, the endless heaven and earth's might began to spin rapidly. With Li Lingtian at the center, the heaven and earth were filled with terrifying heaven and earth's might. At the center of the heaven and earth's might, Li Lingshan's entire body was integrated into the heaven and earth. It was as if Li Lingtian himself was part of the heaven and earth. This world was between heaven and earth. No matter how powerful the pressure was, it could not be stronger than the power of heaven and earth. Li Lingtian controlled the will of the 5 elements and possessed the 5 elements' sacred body. He controlled this world and was naturally powerful beyond compare. An unparalleled pressure was formed, and it immediately collided with the pressure of the four martial gods. Boom! 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 Instantly, the northern Ling mountain range was filled with explosions. The space was continuously torn apart, and the mountain range was continuously trembling and collapsing. The sun, moon, and stars became colorless at this moment, and the earth, mountains, and rivers continued to cry out in grief. All the experts were shocked because they were completely stunned when they saw the scene in the sky. Li Lingtian hovered in the air with a five-colored radiance around him. The radiance continued to bombard the four martial god powerhouses' pressure, and the opponent's pressure was being devoured and refined. As time passed, the five-colored radiance grew stronger as if it had received energy. In this situation, everyone understood that Li Lingshan's heaven and earth might have treated the opponent's pressure as a delicious meal. Amidst the five-colored radiance, Li Lingshan's white robe fluttered in the wind. His otherworldly temperament and graceful figure made him look like a true god who had descended from the 9 heavens. Countless powerhouses admired him. Li Lingtian finally understood what he was doing. He understood that since the other party had challenged him, he would take this opportunity to become famous and use his domineering methods to shake the world. He would use this reputation and power to unify the world. Those who were not convinced would only die and display shocking strength. This would have immeasurable benefits for future battles. Since the powerhouses of the Black Continent had noticed him, he would be shocked. Chapter 831. Domineering. When least reading Omicron in Novel Cool. Omicron M. The terrifying power of heaven and earth was incomparably dazzling. He was like a true god. The four martial god powerhouses were completely stunned at this moment. The pressure of a martial god expert could completely suppress a martial saint expert. This was the power of a higher level, and also the power and advantage of a higher realm. This advantage was the iron law of martial arts in the divine martial continent. No one could break the iron law since ancient times. However, at this moment it was broken by someone. The pressure of a martial god realm expert was actually broken by a martial saint. Furthermore, this warrior sage powerhouse was using his aura to resist the martial god's aura. What was even more shocking was that Li Lingtian was fighting against the four of them alone. His aura was constantly devouring his opponent's aura. All of this was beyond their imagination, and the iron law of the divine martial continent. The world will tremble under my feet, and the Freedom King dynasty's feet from the moment you start. Li Lingshan's expression was calm, but there was a smile on his lips. He looked down at the powerhouses and they could not help but lower their noble heads. At this moment all the experts were shocked, trembling, and feeling inferior. This was because these were the words of a martial saint powerhouse, an unremarkable martial saint powerhouse. Young Master D, Young Master D. Young Master, Young Master. Free and unfettered empire. Free and unfettered empire. However, the army and powerhouses from the carefree empire met Li Lingshan's gaze with excitement, admiration, and respect. The army and experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty, regardless of whether they were martial honors, martial emperors, martial saints, or martial gods, all of them had to have the heart of an expert. Otherwise, he would not be worthy of being a citizen and a powerhouse of the Xiaoyao dynasty. Li Lingtian was to be worshipped and respected, but not to be feared. This was because he would never betray the carefree dynasty or Li Lingtian. All of a sudden, the experts and the army of the Xiaoyao dynasty cheered. The northern Ling mountains used to be the battlefield where the northern Jin kingdom bullied Li Lingtian. However, it had now become the place where the carefree dynasty displayed its might. In front of me, all of you are just a bunch of trash. With a wave of Li Lingshan's hand, the army and powerhouses from the carefree dynasty stopped talking abruptly. There was no more sound. At that moment, Li Lingtian looked at the four martial god powerhouses who were suppressing him with their pressure. A disdainful smile appeared on his face as he spoke in a cold voice. Puchi Hushwoosh, the four martial god experts spat out a mouthful of blood, and their expressions were extremely ugly. In front of all the experts in the world, it was already embarrassing enough for him, a martial god expert, to join forces to deal with a martial saint. However, he was still ambushed by this martial saint expert. Now, he was even humiliated by this martial saint. How could he tolerate this? At the same time, seeing everything in the sky, all the experts were in an uproar. They all let out a cold breath. This was not a challenge at all. Instead, it was Li Lingtian who crushed 4 martial gods by himself. Elegant, domineering, and domineering. One person's pressure was resisting the pressure of 4 martial gods, and he was still so unrestrained. He was able to speak confidently in front of a martial god expert and all the experts in the world. Calling the martial god a good-for-nothing in front of all the experts in the world, wasn't this tone domineering? Die! Die! The white-robed man and the other 3 looked at each other, and at the same time, they unleashed the destructive might of the martial god. Regret filled his heart at the same time. He who humiliates others humiliates himself. He wanted to use the martial god's pressure to suppress Li Lingtian. But in the end, he was crushed by Li Lingtian. The 4 destructive auras were like raging waves as they came crashing down on Li Lingtian from all directions. Whoosh! Instantly, Li Lingtian's celestiality was constantly hit by the destructive pressure. The martial god was still the martial god, and the pressure was still the pressure. Even the celestiality was pushed back by the violent storm. After all, his cultivation was only at the 2nd sky of the martial saint realm. Compared to the martial god realm, there was still a huge difference. The war god is indeed powerful. An elephant has the strength of an elephant, and an ant has the wisdom of an ant. However, no matter how powerful you are, you will always be showing off in front of me. Might of the heavens and earth, destroy! Li Lingtian was forced back by the destructive pressure, but he remained calm and composed. Like a butterfly dancing in the air, the powerhouses in the world were shocked and envious. Li Lingtian was the only person in the divine martial continent who could remain so calm and confident despite the combined might of the martial god. Sis, you've changed. In a corner of the northern Ling mountain range, a purple-clad young man and a black-clad woman were floating in the air, watching the battle in the sky. Behind them, there were a few martial saint super powerhouses. When the purple-clad young man looked at the black-robed woman, he saw her staring blankly at the figure in the air. She was practically dumbstruck. The purple-clad young man called out softly when he saw this. Get lost! When the black-clad woman saw the purple-clad young man laughing at her, her icy aura became even colder. She glared fiercely at the purple-clad young man. As expected of the person we need. In the palace of the Mystic Moon Empire, a crystal stone appeared behind the throne. Inside the crystal stone was everything that happened in the northern Ling Mountains. Everything that happened in the northern mountains was displayed in this crystal. It was a condensed version of the battle in the northern mountains. Looking at that carefree voice and that voice with endless charm, a sweet voice sounded. There was no emotion in the voice. Li Lingtian retreated rapidly with a calm expression on his face. As soon as he finished speaking, a mysterious power erupted from his body. This mysterious power turned into a halo and entered the light of the world. Instantly, the world trembled violently, and the entire mountain range seemed to be destroyed. At that moment, Li Lingtian made a mysterious gesture with his 10 fingers and extended his hands into the air. Boom! The firmament roared as it was probed. A mysterious heavenly might descended from the void and landed on Li Lingtian. Upon receiving this heavenly might, Li Lingtian's power of heaven and earth burst forth. The might of heaven and earth was like divine might as it withstood the destructive might of the 4 martial gods. Li Lingtian's body came to a steady stop amidst the storm as he rammed forward. The destructive might of heaven and earth blasted toward the 4 martial god powerhouses. At this moment, a dramatic scene happened. It was the 4 martial god powerhouses who used their destructive aura to crush Li Lingtian and force him to retreat. In the blink of an eye, it was Li Lingtian who had used his pressure to repel the 4 martial gods. He then pushed the 4 martial gods back with the might of heaven and earth. Just as Li Lingtian returned to his original position, his gaze turned ruthless as the pressure from his entire body burst forth. At this moment, the power of heaven and earth scattered like thousands of golden lights. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion reverberated throughout the entire northern Ling mountain range. The experts who were stunned on the northern Ling mountain range also woke up. His heart trembled, but at the same time he was extremely excited. Pucci! The 4 martial god experts were struck by the pressure and spat out a mouthful of blood. The injury to the mind was thousands of times more serious than the injury to the body. Immediately, the white-robed man and the other 3 were covered in blood. Their faces were extremely pale and they looked extremely ugly. All the powerhouses were suspicious. Was this the 4 martial gods from the northern Jin kingdom challenging Li Lingtian? Or was it Li Lingshan's battle to make a name for himself? Or perhaps Li Lingtian, a martial saint, could crush 4 martial gods? At the same time, the 4 martial god powerhouses were already in a daze. They had never expected things to turn out like this. Initially, the 4 of them had planned to join forces to kill Li Lingtian. However, the formation they had set up was broken by Li Lingtian the moment he came up, and they were even left in a sorry state. Now, he was humiliated by Li Lingtian and injured by the other party's pressure. The 4 of them had become Li Lingshan's stepping stones. This battlefield was created by you. However, this battlefield is controlled by me. I am your master. Li Lingtian hovered in the air and pointed at the 4 martial gods. His face was calm and relaxed, as if he was pointing out the country. Very good. Li Lingtian, you're indeed not bad. However, this matter is not over yet. We don't know who will win or lose until the end. The one who laughs in the end is the winner. The black shirt man calmed down after seeing Li Lingshan's condition. In the beginning they had been angered, causing them to lose their composure. Now that he understood, he dared not act rashly. After calming down, he quickly calmed his injuries and stabilized his mind. He then thought of a way to defeat Li Lingtian with his advantage. However, they would not dare to use their advantage in terms of their realms even if they were beaten to death, because their realms were nothing in front of Li Lingtian. That's right. The winner is the one who laughs last. It's just that you were born at the wrong time. You are the strong ones. There are some strong ones in the divine martial continent, but this era doesn't belong to you. Since this is a battle, let the battle begin now. The smile on Li Lingshan's face disappeared as well. However, his expression remained calm as he spoke indifferently with a grin. He looked at the 4 martial gods. The 4 martial gods were powerful, but they should not have encountered him. Moreover, the martial god was the martial god. If he was serious, he would not dare to underestimate him. However, after he said that, the 4 martial gods were furious. The experts on the mountain also staggered. The battle had already gone on for such a long time, and he had even played the martial god a few rounds. Yet, it had not even begun in Li Lingshan's heart. Was this not infuriating? Heavenly sword. Earth sword. Divine sword. Human sword. The 4 martial god powerhouses were infuriated by Li Lingtian. However, they understood that Li Lingtian should not be provoked so easily. Since he had provoked them, he had to find a way to kill them. They didn't dare to hesitate any longer. With a flick of their divine senses, the 4 of them took out their intrinsic treasures. Instantly, the 4 supreme treasures appeared in the sky, and the world trembled in front of them. All the experts were shocked, and their expressions changed drastically. Chapter 832. 4 Symbols Killing Array 1. Lease reading Omicron and Novel Cool. Omicron M. The 4 supreme treasures were all divine weapons. Immediately, the 4 martial god experts were filled with a destructive and violent aura. The 4 long swords also formed a slight connection at this time. A terrifying pressure emanated from the sky when the 4 swords appeared. Li Lingtian could feel the terrifying pressure in the face of this pressure. Whoosh! Whoosh! The long swords continued to shuttle through the air, and the space was also cut open by the 4 long swords. Light and shadow crisscrossed and sword chi raged. This world had almost become a world of swords. All the experts looked at the 4 long swords that were like destructive killing weapons in the air, attacking the minds of all the experts. Using a sword in front of me? Ha 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 ha, you must be joking. Li Lingtian looked at the 4 swords of the heaven, earth and deity in the sky with excitement. He had countless treasures, but he was determined to obtain these 4 swords. With these 4 swords he could cultivate the heaven-destroying sword formation in the future. At the very least, it could replace the long sword needed for the heaven-destroying sword formation. Wasn't it a joke to use a sword in front of him? With the heavenly sword physique here, if someone still used a long sword, it was completely courting death. Since you know the way of the sword, then let's see how good your way of the sword is. When the man in gray heard Li Lingxian's words, he realized that in this world, only the strong were respected. There was no powerhouse who specialized in one cultivation method. Furthermore, a swordsman might not be cultivating sword principle but was only using this treasure. Then let's give it a try. I'll show you what the true sword Dao is. Heavenly sword body. Li Lingxian's expression turned serious. The 4 martial god powerhouses had already unleashed their 4 powerful divine weapons to their limits. The sky was filled with destructive sword aura and sword radiance. The true essence in his entire body circulated, and the heavenly sword body was activated. At this moment, a terrifying sword intent erupted. Sword intent was completely different from sword chi and sword light. It was a terrifying consciousness and will. The invisible sword intent was even more terrifying than the tangible sword chi and sword light. The heavenly sword physique was the most tyrannical physique in the world. It was indestructible and incomparably sharp. Those with the heavenly sword physique could cultivate the sword path with half the effort and have the chance to become the strongest sword cultivator. At the same time as the heavenly sword body was unleashed, Li Lingxian's divine consciousness stirred and 9 swords appeared before him. Of the 3 supreme saint weapons, the other 5 were divine weapons, and one of them was a supreme ancient divine weapon like the divine martial profound heaven sword. The 9 swords floated in front of Li Lingxian in a straight line as a terrifying pressure burst forth from them. The terrifying pressure directly collided with the treasures of the 4 martial god experts. The destructive pressure of the ancient divine weapon, the divine martial black heaven sword, and the pressure of the divine weapons and supreme saint weapons directly suppressed the other party's pressure. Divine martial profound heaven sword, heavenly sword, sky sword, heavenly fault sword. What powerful divine artifacts and saint artifacts! A person wielding 9 superweapons? All the powerhouses, including the 4 martial gods, were shocked when they saw the long sword in front of Li Lingxian. These treasures were all from extremely powerful backgrounds. It was unexpected that they were all gathered in Li Lingxian's hands. Moreover, it seemed like Li Lingxian had to possess a powerful cultivation base and divine consciousness to wield 9 swords by himself. Most powerhouses would use a single treasure as it required a powerful cultivation base and divine consciousness to control it. However, Li Lingxian had brought out 9 swords. It was obvious that he was going to use all 9 swords. The long sword was a divine weapon and a holy weapon. It was not an ordinary treasure. Previously, when Li Lingxian used the myriad returning swords, it was an ordinary treasure that was completely dependent on the array. Heaven-destroying sword formation 9-9 Heaven-destroying sword formation. Li Lingxian ignored the other powerhouse's astonishment and quickly cast the heaven-destroying sword formation. Instantly, the 9 swords began to revolve around him, and the destructive sword intent in the sky began to revolve as well. It was then that the other powerhouses realized that Li Lingxian was using a sword formation. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Li Lingxian's expression was calm, but he was extremely serious. His eyes were fixed on the swords of the 4 powerhouses as a smile crept up his lips. Sacrifice. Immediately, Li Lingxian guided the 9 swords with one hand and they flew in a strange trajectory toward the 4 martial god powerhouses. Suddenly, sword aura surged in the sky. The 4 martial god powerhouses lost their grip on their long swords and clashed with Li Lingxian's 9 long swords. Li Lingxian stood steadily in the air as his divine consciousness and true essence controlled the long sword to fly. The 4 martial god experts also used their divine senses to control the long swords. For a moment there was no movement from both sides. They watched the treasures in the air attack. All the experts were extremely shocked when they saw the scene in the sky. This was a true expert. He did not need to attack with his own body at all. The 4 martial god experts joined forces to cast the 4 symbols sky screen array. Rays of light began to spin, and the light rushed into the 9 heavens, shaking them. The 4 swords of heaven, earth and deity also floated in front of him, no longer moving. In the northern Ling mountain range, hundreds of thousands of powerhouses were all shocked. Li Lingtian, a martial saint, had forced the 4 martial gods to join forces to cast the array formation. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the 4 of them were when they were able to cast the array formation in front of a genius like Li Lingtian. It was indeed sad to be forced to this extent. However, when they saw the destruction of the 4 symbols sky screen formation, they could not help but tremble. Roar! 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 Rumble! In an instant the sky began to rumble. In the void there was already a violent roar, as if a demon beast had appeared. Not good, it's not the 4 symbols sky screen formation, it's the 4 symbols murder formation. Despicable. The martial god experts joined hands to cast the 4 symbols slaughter array. Despicable to the extreme. A martial god realm expert actually used such a method to deal with a martial saint realm expert. Shameful. They actually used the 4 rapscallions to deal with humans. Countless experts looked at the roar in the air and the terrifying aura descending from the sky. The expressions of many experts changed drastically as they thought of something terrifying. The 4 symbols slaughter array was an array formed by the spells of the 4 great beasts to summon ancient beasts. Li Lingtian's heart trembled as he watched the roar in the sky and felt the destructive aura. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, 4 martial god experts soared into the sky and flew into the void. In the end, the 4 of them stood steadily in the air. 4 mysterious and ferocious auras descended from the air and entered the bodies of the 4 martial gods. Instantly, the 4 martial god experts began to transform rapidly. In less than a moment, the 4 martial god experts had transformed into mysterious and terrifying ferocious beasts. The huge ferocious beasts were at least 100 meters in size. Roar! With a roar, 4 huge beasts descended. The terrifying ferocious beast was extremely ugly and ferocious. This appearance shocked and frightened the experts on the mountain range. Just a glance was enough to make him feel afraid. If he fought with 4 ferocious beasts, he would definitely be courting death. All of a sudden, all the powerhouses turned to look at Li Lingtian. He's just a clown. To the world's powerhouses' surprise, Li Lingtian had spoken to the 4 pharaohs in such a casual manner that they were nothing more than clowns. Instantly, all the experts were shocked. Disbelief was written all over his face. Although Li Lingtian's strength was terrifying, none of them were optimistic about Li Lingtian when faced with the beasts summoned by the 4 martial gods. It was as if they were watching Li Lingtian being tortured to death by the 4 beasts. However, all the experts caught what happened next, and their eyeballs almost fell out. With a loud explosion, one of the beasts was hit hard. Its body was knocked down and its huge tail swept across the north soaring peak. Instantly, the north soaring peak was broken in half. A destructive force erupted, and dust soared into the sky. Roar! 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 In the blink of an eye, the 2 fierce beasts were sent flying by the Yinglong, and their shadows were nowhere to be seen. However, the other 2 ferocious beasts roared and turned into light shadows as they attacked Yinglong. Bang! Bang! With 2 muffled sounds, the ferocious beast's terrifying power ruthlessly bombarded the Yinglong's body. The Yinglong's body only swayed slightly. Its huge eyes looked at the 2 beasts and its huge claws slapped down fiercely. Roar! Roar! 2 screams came from the 2 beasts. When the screams fell, the 2 beasts had already been ruthlessly beaten into the mountain range and directly smashed into the soil. Die! Yinglong burst out with a shocking voice that was like thunder. The 1,000-meter-long body crashed down the mountain range. Instantly, the entire mountain range began to tremble. Countless mountains began to collapse. Countless experts flew up to avoid the destruction of the mountain range. However, as soon as they flew up, they were bombarded by the destructive demonic chi in the air. Immediately, the experts in the air fell like rain. Boom! Boom! Boom boom boom! A series of explosions sounded in the mountain range. the mountain range collapsed. The Yinglong was like a destructive machine in the mountain range. Wherever it passed, there was destruction and death. Right at this moment, the 4 martial god incarnations had already been beaten to the point where they disappeared, returning the 4 of them to their original forms. 4 voices were thrown into the void. Then the 1,000-meter-long Yinglong flapped its huge wings and its huge body flew away like a feather. The speed of his body tore through the void. Yinglong's control over space had reached an extreme. He could reach a speed of 1,000 miles in an instant and could easily tear through the void. Tear! Tear! Li Lingshan's voice rang out as his gigantic claws tore through the air. The 4 martial gods no longer looked like martial gods but beggars. However, every time Li Lingtian tore it apart, a crack would appear in the void and the destructive gale would destroy them. Heavenly flower manifestation, avatar return. At this moment, the 4 martial god experts shouted at the same time. As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying and mysterious aura appeared in the air. This aura made countless experts curious and puzzled. The mountain range was calm, but the destructive tear in the sky continued, and the destructive wind raged. At this moment, the 4 martial god experts started to spin rapidly. They were not afraid of the destructive astral winds at all. Essence-soul fusion. An ethereal voice sounded. A mysterious light appeared in the void. There was a mysterious bead in this light. The mysterious bead instantly disappeared and entered the 4 martial gods. After the bead appeared, the 4 martial gods turned into light and everything disappeared. However, the moment the 4 martial gods disappeared, a man in embroidered clothes appeared. This man's appearance was exactly the same as the 4 martial gods from before. They were completely carved out of the same mold. So, these 4 fellows are just your clones. Since I have appeared, you can disappear forever today. The huge Yinglong floated in the air and looked at the changes below. After the man in embroidered clothes appeared, it opened its mouth and said loudly. At this moment, the experts on the mountain range also woke up and understood what was going on. As soon as the Yinglong's voice sounded, its huge tail tore through the air. Wherever the tail passed, space was torn apart. Second firmament war god. Martial god space vortex / The embroidered robed man's expression was extremely ugly when he saw the Yinglong's huge tail strike down. He circulated all the true essence in his body to the limit and slashed in the air with one hand. A powerful vortex space / blasted towards the tail. In the sky, a light shadow and a huge tail collided in the blink of an eye. Boom! With a loud explosion, the huge tail bounced up, and the light shadow of the whirlwind / disappeared. However, at this moment the huge Yinglong disappeared. When it reappeared, its huge claws had already arrived in front of the man in embroidered clothes. Its claws ruthlessly clawed at the man. Boom! Boom! For a moment, the huge Yinglong and the embroidered robed man kept attacking each other in the air. Countless powerhouses watched the battle in the sky and their hearts trembled. The battle started with the 4 martial gods challenging Li Lingtian, but it had now turned into a second firmament martial god versus Yinglong Puff. In the air, 2 figures flashed. After an unknown period of time, a tiny figure was thrown out. 2 mouthfuls of blood spurted out as Yinglong's figure vanished. When he reappeared, Yinglong had transformed into Li Lingshan's original form with traces of blood at the corner of Li Lingshan's mouth. All the powerhouses were puzzled when they saw Li Lingtian transform into his true form. This was because Li Lingtian had mentioned that he had already cultivated the true dragon body barrier to the martial god realm. But now, he clearly had the upper hand, but he had become the main body. None of the powerhouses could understand what was going on, but Li Lingtian knew what was going on. The true dragon body barrier was powerful, and it had already reached the power of a martial god. However, when faced with an abnormal powerhouse like the embroidered robed man, who was even at the second firmament of the martial god realm, he did not have the slightest advantage. After a huge battle, he had consumed too much energy and could not hold on at all. He could only transform into his true body. Whoosh! By the time Li Lingtian had transformed into his true form, the man in embroidered robes had already returned. He stood before Li Lingtian with a vicious expression on his face. Let's see what else you can do now. the embroidered-robed man said viciously as his gaze swept across the experts of the northern Ling Mountain range. His gaze was like that of a devil, causing countless experts to tremble in fear. Trash. Li Lingshan's eyes were cold as well. With a flick of his divine consciousness, the divine martial black heaven sword appeared in his hand. After the divine martial black heaven sword appeared, Li Lingtian looked at the man in embroidered clothes with a serious expression as a faint smile appeared on his face. At the same time, the sword intent in his body erupted. The terrifying destructive aura in his body quickly connected with the divine martial black heavenly sword. Divine martial profound heaven sword. The sword will destroy the world. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the divine martial black heaven sword. The corners of his mouth curled up as a faint voice sounded. Although the voice was calm, it was like a divine decree that spread throughout the entire northern Ling Mountain range. Immediately, a destructive cyclone burst forth from the divine martial profound heaven sword. This destructive cyclone was the same one that was in the divine aura mountains. After Li Lingtian refined it, it had turned into a destructive force, the divine qi. Heaven-earth gods merge. The man in embroidered clothes looked at the divine martial black heaven sword in Li Lingshan's hand and the terrifying destructive cyclone. His heart began to tremble. He grabbed at the air with one hand, and the 4 divine artifacts appeared in his hand. He chanted a chant and the 4 divine artifacts quickly merged together. The huge sword was hurled at Li Lingtian with a huge sword ray that was 100 meters long. The sword radiance tore through the void and arrived above Li Lingtian as if it disregarded the distance between them. Finally it slashed down viciously. Instantly the void was destroyed, and the sky and earth changed color. The void shattered inch by inch like a broken mirror, looking extremely terrifying. Chapter 834. The N1 Lease Reading Omicron and Novel Cool. Omicron Mkacha. The destructive sword light of the heaven and earth deities slashed down fiercely, causing the space to shatter. However, in the eyes of all the experts, a huge gray object strangely appeared in the air. This gray object was 200 meters long, 100 meters wide, and 2 meters thick. The entire gray object gave off a heavy feeling. It was filled with a destructive icy cold aura, like a meteorite from outer space. That's right, this was the meteorite from outer space freezing sky altar. The sword light of the heaven and earth deity struck the freezing sky altar fiercely, causing the space to tremble. The huge freezing sky god altar only trembled slightly in front of the destructive sword light, and the sword light disappeared. The thick freezing sky god altar was not something that a mere sword beam could shake when faced with the sword beam's bombardment. Naturally, it was not destroyed by the sword beam now. This situation stunned all the experts. In their minds, Li Lingtian would definitely use the divine martial profound heaven sword to strike out fiercely to negate the opponent's sword radiance. However, he did not expect Li Lingtian to use the freezing sky altar at this moment to neutralize the sword radiance. Die! Just as the sword beam was blocked by the freezing sky altar, Li Lingshan's figure shot up and left the protection of the freezing sky altar. He then swung the divine martial profound heaven sword down viciously. Immediately, a destructive sword light slashed towards the man in embroidered clothes with sword intent. The aura of destruction was divine energy. The cyclone kept shining in the sword light. In an instant, the sword light ruthlessly slashed at the man in embroidered clothes. Rip. Divine QJ was the nemesis of martial god experts, and the power of the divine martial profound heaven sword was even more tyrannical. With a single sword strike it tore through the void. Moreover, the embroidered-robed man did not have the slightest reaction after this sword was executed. The sword ray struck the man in embroidered clothes, emitting a tearing sound. His defense was directly destroyed. Immediately, the sword light entered his body, and the destructive sword light and sword intent wreaked havoc on the man's true essence and meridians. His meridians and true essence were destroyed by the sword intent, and the embroidered-robed man let out waves of miserable screams. For a moment, the embroidered-robed man was no longer a second sky martial god expert, but a dying person constantly rolling in the air. Boom! With an explosive sound, the sword essence and sword light in the man's body burst out, and his entire body disappeared. The air was filled with a terrifying sword intent. Even a martial god powerhouse was not as domineering. The army of the Carefree dynasty entered the northern Jin kingdom. The destructive blow caused the northern Jin kingdom to completely collapse in just one day. Moreover, the war in the entire Xian continent was getting more intense. Li Lingshan's reputation was at its peak. The Carefree dynasty had swept through the 12 kingdoms under the Mystic Moon Empire and was extremely powerful. The 90 million soldiers were heading towards the Mystic Moon Empire. The war between the Mystic Moon Empire and the Carefree Empire was inevitable. Nothing could stop the battle between these two giants. However, Li Lingtian, the key figure of the Carefree dynasty, had disappeared from the eyes of the powerhouses in the world. This time, everyone understood that Li Lingtian was uninjured and had truly defeated the martial god powerhouse. It was so domineering, so relaxed, so powerful, and so unparalleled. Li Lingtian had become the idol of the powerhouses of the Xian continent and was also the benchmark of the Xian continent powerhouses. Some disciples who did not possess heaven-defying talent had also regarded Li Lingtian as a benchmark. It was rumored that Li Lingtian used to be an ordinary disciple who was bullied and beaten before rising against the heavens. From then on, no one in the divine martial continent would look down on any low-level disciple anymore. This was because he might become a terrifying Li Lingtian in a decade's time. Currently, there was no one in Xianzhou who could suppress Li Lingtian. The martial god powerhouses were the strongest in the Black Continent. However, 10 of them were killed by Li Lingtian within a year, including the Venerable One's avatar. The focus of the Black Continent had returned to the war god after leaving the North Firmament Peak. After returning to the war god, he adjusted his breathing for a while. His injuries from the tremors had also completely recovered. After his true dragon body barrier reached the 6th layer, the recovery of his Bodis injuries had also reached an abnormal level. It was almost the same as some heaven-defying self-healing bodies. I didn't expect that one of the 4 divine swords was actually forged from purple gold and the thunderclap divine wood. On the war god, Li Lingtian sat on a plank with 4 divine swords in his hands. The 4 divine swords were the heavenly sword, the earth sword, the divine sword, and the human sword. Li Lingtian studied the 4 divine swords carefully. They were all divine artifacts, but they were much more powerful than the ones he had refined. The main reason was that these 4 divine swords were made of purple gold and the thunderclap divine wood, a divine artifact forged from 2 materials, purple gold belonging to the sky and thunderbolt divine wood belonging to the wood. Its power is incomparably powerful. During this period of time, he had always wanted to forge his own divine weapon, and it was a divine weapon to forge the heaven-destroying sword formation. He wanted to forge a set of powerful divine weapons that were suitable for the heaven-destroying sword formation. However, the materials were extremely difficult to find. Even with the strength of the Carefree Empire, they could only find a portion of the materials. The 9 materials he needed were purple gold, divine thunderwood, gung gold, sun essence crystal, rainbow heaven mending stone, icy purple jade, meteorite, clear sky water, and divine dragon blood essence. The more materials he had, the better. However, he only had a portion of them now, so he could not forge the 9 heavenly swords at all. He had never thought that the 4 divine swords he had obtained this time would actually be ready-made. As long as he reforged the 4 divine swords, he would be able to use them and meet the requirements of the divine swords. The heavenly sword that he forged was completely different from the heavenly sword. The heavenly sword was a supreme saint weapon, and was a complete set with the Tianyu sword. However, what he wanted to forge was the heaven sword of the heaven-destroying sword formation. There was no connection between the two. You already have quite a number of divine artifacts in your hands. You can completely refine these divine artifacts again, and extract the materials inside to forge the heavenly swords. This way, you can forge 9 heavenly swords in a short period of time. Right now, half of the Mystic Moon Empire is in our hands. We can use our strength to gather materials and forge the heavenly sword. Naturally, Huang Fuyan knew that Li Lingtian wanted to forge a heavenly sword. However, the materials were not in place at the moment. Even if he managed to forge a few heavenly swords, it would be useless. This was because the heaven-destroying sword formation had to use the heaven swords that were refined together. This way there would be a strong connection between them and they would complement each other. Yes, after I've settled these matters, I'll ask General Long to find these materials and find someone who has the earth core fire to refine the heavenly sword. Li Lingtian nodded. He had already made arrangements in his heart. Now that the war was imminent, he had to take down the Mystic Moon Empire. Once the Mystic Moon Empire was stabilized, he would think of a way to forge the heavenly sword. That's right. Leave this matter to us sisters. You just focus on your cultivation. Moreover, the Xiaoyao Empire's army has already attacked the Mystic Moon Empire. It seems like we have to go to the Mystic Moon Empire's Mystic Moon Sacred City. When that time comes, we will unify the Mystic Moon Empire and form 3 kingdoms. Then we won't have to fear the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire. At that time we will have a foothold in the Black Continent. Tang Qingyue said with a smile. Li Lingtian took the box after she finished speaking. After we gain a foothold in the Black Continent, we slowly swallow the Black Continent and unify it. By then, we'll form a 3-legged confrontation with the Green Continent and the Azure Continent, with Tianhe Holy City as the center. We'll have enough qualifications to dominate the world and obtain more abundant resources for cultivation. Li Lingshan's eyes gleamed. He had already made up his mind to unify the entire Xianzhou when he arrived in Xianzhou. By then, the Azure Continent, the Qingzhou Continent, and the Mystic Continent would form a 3-pronged confrontation with the Celestial River Sacred City as the center. In this way, the entire Divine Martial Continent would have a place. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.